City of San Juan Bautista Planning Commission. Tonight is our regular meeting, February 4th. And would you please stand and join me with a flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now on the agenda here, would you call the roll?
Ernest Franco.
Here.
David Medeiros. Absent.
Put him as the excused absence. He did let us know.
All right. Vanity Guevara. Here. Georgiana Galarte.
Here.
Pat Garrett.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. We can conduct business. We have the issues with the agenda next. Does anybody want to speak on the agenda?
I would like to get clarification on two items. On 7A, consider a recommendation to the City Council to rescind the formula business ordinance. Are we simply rescinding it, or are we suggesting a revision?
I think we're going to replace it, wasn't it? You know, we were going to rescind the existing and replace it.
Okay, so then I think we should include to rescind and replace.
Let's see.
It says recommend it.
I just want to put it on the agenda so when somebody sees it, they know what the actions we're expecting to be taken.
And then item B, I think we need to be consistent in the words and terms that we use. So item B says consideration of a site and design review for a major project. But the resolution calls it a design review application and conditional use permit, and the staff report calls it a conditional use and design review permit. So which is it?
It's both of them, yeah.
But, well, there's three different. It's a design review and conditional use permit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought the service station was allowed to use.
Well,
Are we issuing a use permit? I thought the service station was allowed by right.
Yeah, but it's a conditional use.
It's allowed in the zone as a conditional use permit.
Oh, okay. That's different. That is different. Okay.
okay, so
No problem.
with those changes, I would suggest that we accept the agenda.
Okay. Move to approve the agenda. Second?
I'll second.
Aye.
Okay. Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. To approve the agenda as presented here with changes. Okay, now we have what's called a public comment. Oh my God, we do have public here tonight. Public comment. This is the part where any citizen may address the commission on an item that is not on the agenda. If it's on the agenda, please wait until that item comes up, and then your comments will be in a tight package. And if you want to speak about anything else, how the weather is or the Olympics are going, now would be the time.
I have a speaker card.
We have a
for,
speaker card?
Rachel Ponce.
Hello.
Good evening.
When I saw and heard that a storage business is operating without sprinklers and that was one of the conditions of approval before opening for business, oh my gosh, I could not believe it. This place is not only profiting, but putting us all at risk. What does the fire chief have to say about this risky and serious oversight situation? When we remodeled our present residence, we went through the whole process of providing our plans, paying our fees to get our permit. We were told we were good to go. Halfway through the remodel, we were informed by the fire chief that we were required to put sprinklers throughout the whole house because the remodel was over half of the house. That was a $5,000 unexpected extra expense to our building budget. We scrimped and scraped to come up with the extra expense. We knew if we did not comply, the project would be red tagged. Not only was it a financial hardship, it was emotionally very stressful. I share this with you to point out the unfairness and inconsistencies due to the lack of sophistication of our city government. I am grateful for your decision to volunteer to be planning commissioners. But with that decision come responsibilities. I implore you to be diligent, ask questions, follow through on the conditions of approval you set on future projects. And do not let these kind of mistakes happen again. Have projects on the agenda every meeting. Do not wait for quarterly reports. You monitor projects along with city staff. Hold one another accountable. Do not let another project take advantage of our city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will make one comment. This has been a ongoing problem in the city, and the commission took it upon itself to call up permits that we've heard the conditions haven't been met. So the commission has been proactive in looking at permits, and this was only the first one. There are others on the line that we're going to go one by one. But the problem was before we got here, but it didn't matter. We found it and we acted on it. So I'm sorry that your situation was different, but just so you know that this didn't come up by volunteer. We brought it up, and we've been on the case. The manager's been on the case. So we're looking forward to a resolution for this also. But thank you for your comments. I think it keeps everybody aware, and you're right. The responsibility is ours to keep at it, and I think you've seen that we are trying to be open to the public and everything we can and work for you. Any other speakers?
I have no other speakers.
Okay, there being no other speakers, we'll go to the next item on the agenda. Ceremonial items. The selection of chairman and vice chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner.
I move that we retain the officers for both the Planning Commission and the Historic Review Board.
Just
with
one. Just the one.
Just the one, because we haven't met with Historic Review Board yet. So you are acting as chairman now. I move that we accept you as chairman and Dave Medeiros as vice chair.
I'll second that motion.
Second to motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you for your confidence in me. Promise to do my best, and the day that I don't, I expect you to let me know. All right. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, we have an informal project review. Informal project review, for anybody who's new to it, is a process we have which allows a potential developer to come in at no fee and tell us what he or she has in mind to do. We can discuss it with him. We can give him or her comments. Like, if they wanted to put a 20-story building someplace, we can say, hey, it ain't going to happen. And that is worth money to these folks, because they won't tell their architects to put a 20-story up because the city isn't going to buy it. And so a lot of this information they get will help them on the design that they will use, information they'll use when they come back with a project. At the informal project review, no decisions are made, no promises are made, just comments. He tells us what he wants us to hear, and we tell him what we think about it. Is there any informal? Okay, no informal project review. Okay, the next, we have the consent agenda. Consent items. Approve the affidavit of posting agenda. Approve the affidavit of posting a public notice for the meetings, the public hearings. Approve the minutes of December 3rd, 2013, and approve the minutes for January 7, 2014. I have a couple of comments. Does anybody else have comments?
I have one. For December 3rd, item C. Ultimately, Almaden Development Group will have fee title of property on the Alameda. I'm pretty sure that should be free title? No?
No fee.
It should be fee title?
I think so.
Fee title.
Yeah.
It is. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, on the minutes of January 7, on page 3, under ARCO, about the fourth line down. Commercial real estate broker John McCormick gave presentation stating changes, and I would include suggested at the informal project review by the commission. Make it real clear, not just last month, but at the informal project review. Okay, 8A. Second line there, use permit. Make that use permit single, use permit conditions. The last line there, the applicant's comments and requested quarterly status reports. I would like to add and requested quarterly status reports.
What was that again?
Okay. 8A, that first paragraph, the commission accepted staff and applicants' comments and requested quarterly status reports. This one's not going to get away from us. Okay, on page 4, under F, the last line, that probably City Council. These are just typos.
Typo.
But as long as we're doing professional work, let's do professional work. Okay. I guess that was it. Are there any other comments from any of the agendas, or rather minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to take consent item number 6, A, B, C, and D with the changes, or do you want to have them?
With one agenda item, one more comment. December 3rd, under roll call, absent commissioners, please put myself down as an excused absence. I did notify. The reason I'm doing this is because when they start looking at your record, did you miss a meeting for other reasons, or just didn't want to show, or were you excused because you had something come up? This is a very serious position to be on the commission working for the public. Okay, I'll accept a motion to approve the consent agenda unless somebody wants to take something out of it.
I'll second that motion.
Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, the first of our public hearings. We have the public hearing to consider a recommendation to the City Council to rescind the Formula Business Ordinance 2007-04. What is happening in its essence here is we're not taking it out. We are doing major modifications to it. Staff, you want to pull us up to date on this?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, as you recall, the discussions at the various past meetings was that we wanted to take the negative connotation of the ordinance 7-04 and replace it with something that relays a more positive direction, but yet to maintain the architectural and site review control that we feel is important to maintain the San Juan character. We've gone through various proposals and amendments, and has adjusted a revised ordinance that we feel 2014-01 that will kind of reflect the desire of not only the Planning Commission but the community in terms of making a positive statement, yet still preserving the integrity of our character. And I'm going to kind of turn it back to the Commission to say we're welcome to answer any questions that you feel. Matt, you can kind of fill in.
Commissioners, well, let's see. Do you want to hear from the public first, or do you want to comment on it?
Hear it from the public.
Okay. Since we do have a formal public hearing, we've heard the item. This is the staff or city proposal, staff presentation. Is there anyone? Let's take it in two parts. Is there anyone here who wants to speak in favor of the changes to the formula business ordinance?
I have 2 speaker cards, and they can express that.
Okay, we'll just take them then
Right.
in order.
Mariana Claus?
My name is Mariana Thomas, and I live on 45 Monterey Street in a historic house, which I maintain both for my own enjoyment and for that of the community and visitors. I am definitely speaking against the change to this ordinance, and I do think it's wrong, with all due respect and appreciation for the city manager for what he has done, to put it in terms of positive and negative. We definitely have many positive things in this town, meaning that we have a mission, state park, a goodly number of historic houses, a tradition of both of an antique fair and many other, and a historical society. Our community has a personality that is spiritually and in many other ways important to many people who come visit here. If you open the door, if you want to put it in terms of positive, negative, I think language there is really wrong, and I'm a language instructor. You cannot guarantee that the responsible people that are sitting here this evening, and I made this point before without intending any insult to anyone, the responsible committee that is sitting here and management that is here is going to uphold, with weaker language, is going to uphold the definition of this community and help the community to develop the way it has been. I know I'm not saying this really well, but everybody that I have spoken to, and many people are not here this evening because perhaps they don't want to take this risk, being in front of this microphone. But they really are not for this, rescinding this formula business ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mariana, may I ask you a question? Can you articulate what fear you might have? What might you envision as happening?
Well, let's say you have someone come in and they say, well, you know, I grew up in a community where there was a wonderful Taco Bell. You know, and my kids are here. I have several teenagers. They want to go to Taco Bell. They don't want to go to Doña Esther's, or they don't want to go to Jardines. Okay, they want to go to Taco Bell because they're teenagers and they want to hang out. I had someone approach me just a week ago on the street. She said, well, you know, you wouldn't have to show on the outside that it's a Taco Bell. It could just, inside you would know it was a Taco Bell.
And where do you think this might happen?
Well, it could happen right on, you know, on 3rd Street. It could be approved. Because what happens, people after a while, committees, people are worn down unless you have really clear laws. That's what's happening to us in the country. I mean, not everybody has integrity to really stand and say, look, this is our town, this is what our general plan, and this is what we want to maintain. So you get someone either, you know, paying under the table or whatever. So I don't want to see the language weakened.
Thank you.
Next.
Todd Dubois.
Good evening. It's been a little while since I've been here. Been busy in Hollister. Anybody's been keeping up with my activities. I would like to make a few comments about the formula business ordinance. One, I don't think it's working for us. Two, I think it's a little bit insulting to our honorable commission and council members and staff and their ability to manage what the public wants. Putting laws that put handcuffs on you as commissioners and handcuffs on our planning commission and handcuffs on our staff, I don't think is good for our community. I'll add a couple anecdotes. I've traveled to 30 plus countries in many wonderful, wonderful historical cities, and I can tell you that formula businesses work fine when they're managed properly. We have Cal Poly folks working on our general plan, and one of my favorite formula businesses is right downtown in San Luis Obispo. Some of you might know it, Victoria's Secret. Okay, that was supposed to be funny. Anyway, the more important is I've been to places like San Miguel de Allende, which is the most expensive property in all of Mexico. It is the most fantastic historical Latin mission type city that I have ever seen, and there is a Starbucks on the center square. So I'm not saying I want a Starbucks in downtown San Juan, but what I'm saying is that having an ordinance that puts handcuffs on our commissioners and such to do what's right for San Juan is not a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Is there anybody who would like to make a last-minute comment? Okay. Commissioners, any comments?
Well, I think I'm on the same page as both Mariana and Todd. I actually don't envision a franchise coming to downtown. I don't think they would. I don't think it would be profitable for them. We don't have the parking. We don't have the traffic coming through. And I do think I don't think that we want to make this like a carte blanche to anybody just to come on in now. We're always going to be very careful about preservation and protecting the character of the town. I believe that we all are of that same opinion. One thing, I don't know, is it a time to discuss changes we'd like to make? Or
Yeah.
again, getting back to consistency, I think...
Oh, wait, one last, before we go too far on this thing.
Oh,
Yeah, what is the difference? What changes it?
I don't know.
Oh. Staff, before we go too far, we received a revised resolution here. What are the changes? What are we...
Actually, it's a revised ordinance, and the changes were by our city attorney, and they're not in the body that was presented in the other one. It's for code publishing purposes, we'll just say more the routine of how an ordinance should look.
Okay.
But the language is the same?
Right.
Okay, I just want to make sure, in case there was something new in it.
I'd
want to
also
discuss
like,
that.
I'm sorry, I'd like to let the public know that we did receive a letter from Caravan, a very compelling letter. She pretty much said what you've said, well, pretty much what Mariana has said, but she included pictures of what might be, and I suppose this, she's thinking, might be the windmill market kind of scenario. And some of the data that she includes is very interesting, but not very timely. One is dated 2004, 2006. I'm not sure. Maybe today's economy, things are different. But I would like to change or clarify in Section 1, Item A, the continued vitality of the city's economy is dependent upon tourism and upon the ability of the city's commercial and historic districts to attract both residents and visitors. Are we talking about the same district, commercial and historic? Are we talking two different districts? Are we talking about our historic downtown district?
Both districts.
Two different districts.
Yeah. There's commercial zone districts that are outside the historical district, and then there is mixed commercial residential in the historical district.
Okay.
You know.
Should we have any capitalization of any of those words? When we say historic district, do we mean just the one that is on the National Register, or do we mean our historic district, or how do we look
It's
at
the
it?
San Juan Batista's historical district.
That goes from Franklin to
McCollum
San Jose, or
yeah.
However the city
Down
defines
to
it.
San Jose.
it
yeah.
used to be San Jose.
Yeah, it used to be San Jose.
It's,
And
yeah.
I think the commission has expressed interest this year, or in the coming meetings, is to examine the boundaries of that and expand it or include additional property if you want. Yeah.
It doesn't
So
quite
it would be
colony.
the San Juan Batista Historical District.
Well, the actual terminology is San Juan Bautista 3rd Street Historic District. And if
Yeah.
that's what we're referring to, I think we need to
Yeah.
be specific.
I like to refer to it as the downtown area, which is basically the 3rd Street, which is going to encompass us from the intersection of 4th Street all the way down to San Jose Avenue, and from 2nd to 4th, because there's the historical district goes in and out, you know, and it borders from 4th to 2nd Street, and from San Jose all the way down to Pierce Lane. You know.
I am reminded of Mariana Tomas's comments about how, if we can't get it clearly defined right here, then there's a misunderstanding
because
going
we
on
won't
right
always
now.
be here.
So I think the wording is not as clear, and if we're supposed to be here trying to recommend to City Council how the wording ought to be, I think we ought to get it straight before we send it to them.
Yeah, well, the section 1 gives the pretext is that the emphasis is to maintain the vitality of the city's economy, and we depend on tourism as our main component of our economical engine.
Do you want to put in
Now-
there commercially zoned properties and 3rd Street Historic District?
You know.
Yeah,
Would that
I think we should use this zone.
proper names for
Right.
it?
Commercial zone, isn't it a zone?
Commercially zoned, well, commercially zoned properties, you have 2, 3 levels of commercial property. But that would be, so those properties zoned commercial in some form or other, and those properties within the 3rd Street Historical District, is that what it's called?
3rd Street Historic District.
Yeah, that would make it very clear. Commissioner, can you buy that?
I would see it throughout, you know, wherever we run into this
Well,
problem.
staff can take care of that with a
Okay.
search. But I mean, though using that terminology, commercially zoned properties and properties within the 3rd Street Historical District.
Yes, and I know that the vitality is dependent upon tourism in those areas.
Right.
And then as we go farther, I'm even clear to the end, page 2, section 3A, number 7, I'm of the opinion that possibly right in the San Juan Bautista Historic District as defined just now, we should not allow retail restaurant business as defined in
Well,
this. I don't know how far you want to go
Item
with that.
7, though, says, for you who don't know, Item 7 says, San Juan Bautista Historic District in downtown will allow retail business, restaurant business, and visitor accommodations on vacant parcels that could be developed and will be reviewed in accordance with Chapter 11-18 Site Plan and Design Review and Chapter 11-06 Historical Resources Preservation of the San Juan Bautista Municipal Code.
Now, again,
Approving that
yeah,
is just saying that we'll...
Again, retail businesses and retail restaurants are currently
Approved.
in
Yeah.
downtown.
So the
and we're
difference
saying
is-
that we're going to allow them on vacant lots to fulfill, and let's make it economically viable in this downtown so we get a variety.
But it'll be subject to
It's subject to your review.
historical
Yeah.
resources preservation.
Commission and board review. I mean, that's it. See, it doesn't matter if they want to come up with a 5-story Starbucks. They can apply anything they want to. But this commission sits down and says, hey, it isn't in our plan to have a 5-story anything here, much less, like McDonald's, 30-foot arches. Got to have them. Well, you can have them any place but our town.
Let's be sure to call it that the San Juan Bautista Historic District,
3rd
exactly
Street Historic
the
District.
way we did in the rest of the document.
So every time we refer to the Downtown Historic District, it has to be San Juan Bautista 3rd Street Historic District.
Right, because this is an ordinance, this is a law, so let's make it easy for the city attorney to interpret for us.
And so that we carefully understand that they will be reviewed the same as other things that the Planning Commission
Well,
does. Yeah,
Chapter 1106, Historical Resources Preservation,
exactly.
and the Site Plan and Design Review sections.
Exactly.
So if you
we all
get past
understand-
that with a 5-story building, this is not this
Yeah.
commission.
Again, anything above 3 stories is not allowed in our
Exactly.
zoning ordinance.
Okay? And even at the 30-foot arches? Sorry. Okay.
I have a question,
Okay.
since we're on page 2. Item 5, the auto-oriented highway frontage commercial zones. Where would Neil's fit into that?
Neal's Market?
Yeah,
They're in a commercial zone.
but it's not really highway frontage.
Not
No.
highway
So
frontage,
it would
yeah.
just be
Yeah.
the two gateways, the
The two gateways.
western and the,
We say the southern gateway and the western gateway.
okay. And just to be sure for myself, it would not include the San Juan Highway, because that's a
Exactly.
different zoning. Okay.
Yes.
I'd like, can I comment? In this revised ordinance, the first part, section 1, is just findings. That will not be in the ordinance. I mean, it's in the ordinance, but will not be in the municipal code.
No, it's okay.
You take it from
Section
When it-
2.
section 2,
when-
where you
when
address
it-
the definitions.
When it's codified, it will only be from section 2 through 6. Yeah. Mhm. Like the current, if you read the current ordinance, it only gives the meat and potatoes of the ordinance, not all the findings and the fluff that you use to support it.
Right, so it'll be like section 3 and section 4 is it.
Yeah.
I think it's important to know that by having the section 1, I know it's not in the codified, but that tells you what was this commission thinking about when they recommended adoption of this ordinance. They were thinking about the long term, the historical feeling for the city, the character. But that's what we want the council to find. They may not agree. That's okay. That's their call. But this is what we're recommending that they adopt. An ordinance and its cover sheet that says certain things and why did you do this? And there it is.
And
If we did it for the wrong reasons, that's appealable.
I'd like to say that I agree with Mariana. I don't, and I agree with Georgiana. I don't want any formula businesses downtown. But I think that we'll be protected against that by including the fact that the specific resources have to be consulted to approve any project that would come before us. Come on.
This ordinance is being brought up at a time when we have had the character of the community lessened by the termination of 2 very good restaurants, which made the character substantial in that area. By also the economic situation in the whole country and the state and the town. So I really want you to consider how much the pressure you're getting from the outside from people. We're not doing well. What are you going to do about it? Because we're not doing well. I read the Wall Street Journal every weekend. We're not doing well in the whole country. I mean, I came here in 1954 from a communist country, and I paid my way through school, graduate school, served my country. I'm used to living on very little, but I also know what greed is about. And because I have seen it over and over in institutions. And so now all of a sudden this ordinance needs to be changed because we're not doing well economically in the town. But look at the personality of the community that you had. You had these wonderful restaurants. Well, are you as a board then going to be responsible for getting such really good restaurants again and good businesses? See what I'm saying? Is our choice going to start going down, down, down? And so that's my concern. And I think it's really a valid one because I've come here since 1965. And it was not only the Mission, the State Park, tremendous antique shops, really international restaurants. Just because those all do not exist now, don't cave in because some people may not have the vision that people before had who had these businesses. I mean, think where you're coming from.
when you adopt an ordinance, the city does not go looking. You have people who are professional in this, the commercial realtors. They're the ones who go out looking for people and offer them a potential location. But there has to be a potential location to offer. And all we're doing here is saying we have some spots that we would allow certain types of uses. Now, like I use the 5-story building as a extreme example. But you're right, there would be a lot of pressure. And people are going to try and get around that ordinance. And that's why you have commissions and city councils and the appeal process built within this. But you're right about something else. This is America, and it is also a citizen's duty to keep an eye on what his or her government is doing. And so when the commission comes up here, like there's 21 people in the audience right now. Somebody came out to say, what is this commission doing on certain issues? I don't think everybody's here on the first one, but whatever they're here for, this is the American way. And it's to give enough information to a body to make a decision. The final decision is made by the commission. But it is appealable or to the city council. Say, hey, your commission didn't do it right. Our ordinance said this, and they gave this away. That's what you want to make sure it doesn't even go to the council, because it shouldn't never have gone. But if it did, say, council, those guys aren't doing their jobs down there. They need to be replaced. I'm here because I was appointed for 4 years. But 3-2 decision, and I can be history, as could any of us. But again, I won't be history unless some citizens say, hey, he's not doing a good job, and we need good representation for... Remember, I represent you. You the folks. We represent you. We're working for you.
And I think it's important to realize is that this ordinance here is going to give us the ability to have people call upon us that will give us the variety so we can bring vitality into our area. We don't always have to choose. At least they're going to come and talk to us. Now, a good example of this is the Union Bank is a franchised bank business. And if we had Bank of America or Wells Fargo want to come in, it would be denied if we had the current ordinance. I'm saying is we should have that. If there's a vacant lot and they want to come in, let's take a look at them and see. And then if we have the site and architectural, we can make it blend into our character. That's the ability. I also have reports on our sales tax. The top sales tax producer in San Juan is Valero Market. The Valero gas station is the top. If I took the total sales tax of San Juan and compared it to other cities, we're at the 37th percentile in terms of revenue producing of our sales tax. We are dying in the Central Business District. We have to bring vitality into it. And that vitality is, come and talk to us. We might not always choose what we want, they want, but at least we have the ability to talk to them. That's my philosophy, is the right to buy and right to sell, the right to try and the right to fail. If we get away from those principles, we are putting artificial constraints on the free market system to come and talk to us.
See, just because there's an empty lot and somebody wants to put a building in, if it doesn't go to the Historic Review Board and the Planning Commission favorably, it has to get built. And if something really bad is approved, I would expect 40 people to be here in that meeting and say, hey, we're going to council. Do what you want. But remember, the citizens have the say. And just because somebody says, well, my corporation says we have to have 30-foot arches, that's fine. Any other city but ours, because that ain't going to happen. So the design and the signs are all controlled by the city, i.e. through our ordinances. So nothing's going to get by that we don't want to be there. Commissioners?
I'm fine. Are you fine? I'm better.
They're better. Well, again, but I think that's important. You've got two commissioners who are really concerned to make sure that this says whatever it needs to say so the commission and the city is in charge. So that somebody can't say, I don't worry about your ordinance because I've got it, if someone says my pocket. It takes 3 votes and it takes a darn good design to get those votes. Okay.
No, hold on. I have 2 more comments, please.
I'd rather hear the comments now than have somebody appeal it and have the council send it back to us.
Yeah.
If the council changes anything on the ordinance, they can't approve it. It's got to come back to us for public review again. So let's send it up right the first time, meaning what we want it to say. Commissioner.
Okay, page 2, item 5. Drive-through quick service establishments shall be allowed only in auto-oriented highway frontage commercial zones. I'd like to add, or specify that they're at the western and eastern gateways. Or that they should,
And the south, because that's the one.
the south,
Is
which
it
is
across the
south?
street? Across 156. 156 goes
Oh, well,
east-west.
that's only, here it's only western and eastern, so we should add southern.
That's fine, because I think it's always been referred to as the Eastern Gateway. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
one.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So do we agree on that?
Now, tell
Go
us
for it.
exactly what streets you're thinking of.
That would be the Alameda
And 156.
and 156, McCollum and 156.
Just those 2, because the zoning is different on the other end of town,
Right.
and that wouldn't fit.
So it would be, so what are they? Are they western and eastern? Are they,
The western has always been the McCullamy-Monterey intersection, that commercial district right there. The Valero, and across the street is
Okay.
the Manning's property.
and then the 156 and the Alameda?
As they call that, the eastern,
Eastern.
according to the
Okay.
general plan.
So then 5 will include, I mean, for me, I wanted clarity, and I think for the next commission, they need to be clear too. Frontage zones at the western and eastern gateways.
Okay. All you do is make it very, very clear, and you're right. It's the next commission didn't have the benefit of all this, so it's got to be very clear.
And do we need to say anything on page 3, policy L21, again discussing the western and eastern gateways? Do we need to say and should reflect the character of San Juan because they're gateways? Does gateway
Oh,
imply?
those are in the general plan.
And then-
Those are written.
Oh, okay, okay.
When we say in section 3B, application procedure and approval, colon, not there, retail businesses, restaurant businesses, and visitor accommodations are subject to review by the Planning Commission and the Historic Review Board. Does review mean approval as well? Review and approval?
Yeah, we should say
Or
that.
a review and action? Does the fact that we have a review mean that something is resolved, or do we need to put it in there?
It could be
that
reviewed and
action is
rejected,
taken?
or-
Review and do we need to specify in these ordinances? They seem
It makes it clear, put it in.
makes it clearer.
Okay. Now, where are you at there?
That's the very bottom of the page. 2, subject to review and action.
Positive
Or,
action.
and approval.
Yeah, review and approval, yeah.
Isn't that at the beginning of the sentence as well? I mean, does that cover it or no?
Is that what?
Does the beginning of the sentence cover it? Application, procedure,
Oh.
and approval? And then,
And then, but see,
No, I think approval is the wrong word there.
Oh.
It should be application procedures.
and then the colon,
And then I think the word review and approval goes where we just put it. Because your procedure could end up as a denial. So I would say application, B, application procedure.
Period.
Period. So let me say retail businesses, restaurant businesses, and visitor accommodations are subject to review and approval by the Planning Commission and the Historic Resource Board. That's how you get through. Any other comments, commissioners? This is our last chance because we're going to run this one up to council.
But we can go to council and
You can.
have one more chance. We have to. And the public as well.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Open up to the public for a second?
Feel free.
Richard Ponce, 93 4th Street. I just want to continue what Commissioner here was asking about our gateways. Most of us know where our gateways start, but do we know where they end coming into town? If certain businesses are allowed or not allowed at our gateways, we need to know where our gateways start, which we do know, but I don't think we know where they end.
I would think that the zoning would determine.
Because I think the zoning districts determine that.
And, okay.
Because if you wanted to add to it, you'd have to come in for a rezoning of the property from whatever to a commercial zone. And it may not be in the best interest of the city, or it might be in conflict with the general plan.
Okay, as long as we know that that's covered, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good question.
Right now, if we were looking at the zoning map, how far into McKelvey Street is the commercial zone? Right up to the first house, or the
See it up there?
It's represented in red.
The first
Way
property
down
on the
here,
corner
up there.
there, and then the next property is the Rodriguez property, and that is a mixed use.
It's mixed
That's-
use, so that's commercial.
That's commercial with a residential component.
And is that okay?
That one there on the corner.
for-
Yeah. And then the Valero is a piece is commercial.
Across the street?
And across the street.
And there's a tiny little blip across from the proposed ARCO station, the Wilcox House. That's commercial,
That is
right?
commercial, yes.
Just that one house?
One house,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Questions? From the public? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and see what the commission wants to do with this. Commissioners, what do we want to do? Because then I'm looking for a motion.
And that is a new sheet of paper that says,
You got all these.
recommend planning amendment to chapter 11.29. Is that the one we're going to look for, Trish?
So our resolution basically tells them why we feel they ought to adopt the ordinance.
Rescind and adopt a new one. Is that right, what we're doing? The word rescind, I think, is what's been confusing to us. Because it means that we would be without an ordinance, but that's not what we're actually doing. They're rescinding the old one and replacing the wording in a new one. So we're not going to have
We're going to have,
nothing, we're going to have something.
in one resolution, in one ordinance, they're going to get rid of what they don't want, and they're going to replace it
Yes,
with
exactly.
certain new
They're not rescinding
new text.
blanketly.
No, we're going to do that with a sign code, though. Okay. Call for a motion of something, or discussion, or action of some kind.
Would it be good to have David's response to the item read?
Was that delivered to everybody?
I'm not sure.
We all got it.
It was just an email form.
By
David
email.
Medeiros, the absent,
Yes.
excused absence.
Okay, let's
Could we read
let's
it?
take that as
Could
a.
we read his?
You have a copy of it?
I forgot where I
I don't
put it.
think I printed it. Oh,
Yep.
did you print it?
Okay, let's ask the clerk. Do we impose on you? Neutral party, third party neutral. Okay, Commissioner Medeiros I did ask for an excused absence. He sent a letter with comments of his own regarding tonight's issue. It's not a vote, but at least it's part of the public record that he made the comments.
So specific to the formula business ordinance, because he comments on a lot of things. Consider a recommendation on the formula business ordinance. He votes yay. Based on what Roger and Matt have put together to revamp our current ordinance, and in review of its completed draft for your approval and satisfaction, then it is ready to present to the City Council for rescinding.
Okay. We'll take that as part of the public record. Okay, commissioners, what do you want to do?
Nobody wants to be the one to make the motion. All right.
Well, if you don't want to do something, we have to kick it to the next meeting, but we'd rather get something done now.
I think you've clarified several issues that I had, and I would be prepared to vote.
Would you like to make a motion to have something to vote on?
I move the Resolution 2014, and can you give us a number?
Whatever.
3. And I'll read, I will
Just
go
read
ahead
the title. You read the
A
title.
resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista recommending amendments to Chapter 11.29 and Section 11.04.110 of the San Juan Bautista Municipal Code.
Okay. The resolution has been made public, so
And that would be subject to the corrections.
Subject to
Yes.
corrections as suggested in
Yes.
our meeting today.
okay.
I'll second that motion, but when do we get to see the resolution? At City Council?
You're looking at it.
Well, no, we want to be sure that all the changes are made.
Oh,
We will email the draft when it's submitted to the city council before their
Okay.
approval with all the corrections.
okay.
We have a number of them here, and we'll be putting them together on Section 1A, Section 1B, Section 1C, 1D.
Maybe as soon as you do your draft, you may want to
Yeah.
send it to commissioners.
Section 3, 5, 3, 7, 3B.
Okay. So under those conditions, I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion for approval of resolution making changes to the formula business ordinance. Is there a second? We have a second.
I second it.
Commissioner-
Second. Okay, whatever.
Ghilardi made the motion. Commissioner Guibert seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay. And again, for the record, any citizen has the right of appeal to the City Council on any action taken by this commission. The process, contact the staff, and they will advise you if this is the direction you want to go. In any event, you may want to attend that meeting anyway. At this point, I would say in support of the ordinance. Okay, next item.
Then the motion for the resolution was the motion for the replacement.
Yes.
Now the second resolution is a resolution the Planning Commission, City Council recommending to the City Council to rescind and replace with a new ordinance.
Oh, we're doing two ordinances.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that one is where for us to look at?
And that's,
Just at the end?
yeah. And that would be 04. So now you've made a recommendation for a new one that we all feel comfortable with, but the old one is still in effect. So the
Okay.
second resolution says, now rescind this, and it's
Anything
going
in
to be
conflict?
replaced with a new one. And the reason that we want there is that we wanted you to adopt the revised one first before you rescind it.
Exactly, so
So
that
that
we're
you
not
know
without
that
it.
it's in that order.
Okay, folks, since we're recommending a new one, does anybody want to make a motion to get rid of the old one?
I'll make a motion that we rescind the ordinance.
The conflicting parts?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion to rescind the conflicting parts with our recommendation to council. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Let's see. Is there on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, we have the process for a new revised ordinance there. Okay, next. Consideration of a site and design review for a major project, ARCO service station site at the corner of Highway 156 and The Alameda. The applicant is Harvey Dugwell, and the environmental review analysis report has been prepared. Okay, staff, what should we know here?
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the Commission, as you recalled in the previous Plan Commission meeting and our special meeting, the application consists of a 1.12 acre parcel of land, and it is for a ARCO station, convenience store, and a restaurant. The applicant originally made the application for a drive-through restaurant. That has been modified and rescinded from his application, and now it is a gas station, convenience store, and a restaurant without the drive-through. The revised site plans have been distributed and been corrected to reflect that. The conditions that our approval is that we've outlined in the staff report, and our recommendation for approval in the things are 40 mitigation measures and conditions of approval. And if you'd like, we can go through each one of those, or you can review them and then you can ask questions. We've tried to cover all bases to make sure that it reflects the desire of the community as well as the Commission, and to address the impacts to make it less than significant to the area. And particularly is the ability to offset some of the impacts by making the applicant perform certain standards in terms of lighting, landscaping, dedication, improvements, striping, driveway entrance and exits, and internal. Now, with that, the architecture, that site design review is subject to the Planning Commission's interpretation of how you would like to have it look and integrate.
Okay, this is one of those items that was very controversial, and the Commission, in addition to this this is a continued public hearing. So in addition to this continued public hearing, we had a special meeting on January 23rd. We had about 20 people show up and comment, I guess, for and against the service station. And a lot of the comments, there were comments on safety and the coordination with Caltrans. And discussion of removal of trees, landscaping, the elevations. There were people supporting each other. Concern for bicycle and pedestrian traffic. And we do want San Juan to draw traffic. Okay. We had a letter in support with reasons. Let's see. And then Mr. McCormick just talked about a study that had been done to attract businesses. It was tourism and retail development. And then we learned that Leal Vineyards was considering buying the San Juan Inn. We heard from the people at the Jardines restaurant. We heard concern for signs and architecture. We had support for architecture. We had concern for signs. And again, the sign package has not been presented yet. It doesn't have to be presented yet. You talked about the importance of the gateway design because it was on a scenic road, the historical road. Once upon a time, you had stagecoaches going down there. Talk about architecture again. I think one thing that came through was the fact that you had the informal review. A lot of comments came through. The developer heard you and made significant changes, I think at probably great expense, because each time you have your architects working on it, somebody's paying for it. But you had the developer make changes consistent with the concerns of the city and consistent with our plans and policies. Had discussion about the pump locations, the number of them, lighting, landscaping, pedestrian bike paths, and illumination of signs came afterwards. But to give you an idea, all these things that we talked about, you've heard already. We may hear more about them tonight. But the key thing was that there were a lot of folks who were really concerned and wanted just to talk about one item. And we had this special meeting. This is your planning commission, took their time to meet and hear. So we've had a staff, did you want any more staff report, or is that it for your Starks?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah,
okay,
right.
let's open up to the public then.
And I think the applicant is in the audience, and I think he would like to...
Let's start with the applicant. Mr. McCormick, would you like to make a presentation? Did I get enough of the summary of the meeting on the 23rd?
Yes, you did a very good job. Planning commissioners, city staff, public. I'm here with Harvey Dodwall, who is the applicant, developer, the architect, Salim,
Good evening.
and Alan, the engineer. So if there's further questions, we have our entire staff here, team here, to answer those questions. This is the third time I've made this presentation. Each time I think we have made a great deal of progress, as Ernie expressed. We have been very responsive, in our opinion, to meeting the objections, and I think all of us have a better plan today than when we started. And I really thank everyone here and the council for planning commissioners for your input, because we do have a better project. As Roger said, it's a fuel station, convenience store, and quick service restaurants. Similar statistics on the project description, though now we have 40 parking spots. We've reoriented the building to be able to provide more parking. CEQA, as Roger explained, we've been through the less than significant impacts findings. There's a site there on the east side of the city of San Juan Bautista, and the red polygon there is the commercial land that we're talking about, 1.12 acres. There it is again. Again, highlighted there. There's the intersection. What we wanted to stress here is the benefits that accrue to the community. There will be the quality of life issues, economic opportunities, and meets the goals of the city of San Juan Bautista. There are a great deal of holes in offerings here of goods and services here in this community. One project can't solve all of them, but I've been in commercial real estate for 28 years. You have to plant small seeds to grow into trees. And I think this is a key site, and we're doing it right, I believe. The owner is here to support the city's acts, and I'm very confident that he will play a role here in the community, in both the promotion of the community and in the historic aspects of it. Economic benefits, it complements the inn, which is next door. We will increase the tax base through property taxes, gas taxes, employee taxes, and sales taxes. We will create a gateway vision on the highway, which is wanting right now. We discussed the report that Ernie referenced, which is a tourism development study that was done by the University of Wisconsin, that I was very impressed with as a vehicle to understand what the needs of communities are that have tourist features.
And this is a quote from that. It helps the community as part of economic development, and it helps bring in and keeps people in these communities, and also provides services that may be unavailable and have to drive further to get them. In the language of economic developers, that's called leakage. If you don't have it here, people will leave. Now, people will argue that we don't want national companies, that they leach from your community. But if you don't have any business, all of that goes away. And so having a national brand gas station is key in bringing people off the streets. You don't see mom and pop gas stations anymore, for instance. They just don't have the buying power. They don't have the staying power. So this is one of the key parts, as far I could see, of the study, which is the two parts of what makes tourism work in a community. They break it down into two categories: souvenirs, crafts, collectibles. And this is based upon research that was done in Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, and was taken by this group in Wisconsin. And they say that what brings people for those things are postcards, books, booklets. There's the highest amount. T-shirts, sweatshirts, other clothes, crafts, local food products, excluding meals, books, items they add to a collection, mementos of a location, an attraction such as bumper stickers or memorabilia, and antiques. So you have some of those here, and we want to get people here to take advantage of those services and expand them. The other part of it is convenience and household items. And these products, as it says here, can include food, health, beauty aids, gasoline, maps, automobile supplies, ice, suntan lotion, firewood, and other items typically found at a convenience food store / gas station. This is goods that the locals will buy and the tourists will buy. And we can get people off the street, find our town. It will make a difference to the other businesses here. Benefits meet the city goals, of course, the zoning, your general plan, and will make improvements to the infrastructure in town. Things like that will be what the city has wanted. This was our first crack at actually the second one. We had a rough sketch. This one had a common drive with the adjacent hotel. This is the other alternative, which is there was no common drive, so we'll have our access here. And this is the most recent one, alternate C, which is a result of this study session. As you can see here, the building has been pulled back. There was more space between the circular road around the back of it. We've created more of a patio effect here, which could service the kiosk that we discussed as an element to bring people back into town through redirection. We would work with the historic committee in designing that and building it, and we'd like to make sure that we present ourselves really, really well, consistently, have the historic people make sure that the presentations are clean and fresh and professional and changed so that it's fresh. There's nothing worse than going to many communities, you see a billboard with a house for rent and pull off the tag for a dog. That is not going to benefit the community. We want to stress what you want to stress, the amenities, the state park, the historic houses. And of course, we've changed the direction around we added some parking spots in here, some parking spots behind. We've also, as Roger said, we will be dedicating, Roger, is it 7 feet or 10 feet? What is it? 7 feet, which would ultimately allow you to widen the street at your discretion as the traffic requirements occur. We have a new driveway that is right, where is it? right there. That is, yeah, there's the entrance right there. That will be in and out, and then out only at this exit here. These are the elevations. Salim has done an extraordinary job with the details of this. Then there's the rendering, view 1 and view 2. This is the view from 156. This is a building that has 360 degrees around it with articulations and detail that you will not see in the commercial world. It's the same interior. We didn't do the interior changes, but basically we've shifted the right side back so you have that extra walkway out in the front. Oh, and I missed one other thing here I wanted to point out. We've also, as a result of the comments about bike traffic and walk traffic, we're actually going to widen the sidewalk here, which would allow for more bicycle and pedestrian traffic to be on that walkway. So that should really be something that gets linked on further down the road, which will benefit other projects. We will also be repairing the Alameda. It is a totally beat-up street right now, and we are committed to making those infrastructure improvements. One of the things that Salim did here, and I wanted to point out, is the design here is really reflective of your iconic building here, which is the Mission. This is a historic picture of the Mission, a more recent picture of the Mission, and a rather attractive silhouette of the building. And you can see how he incorporated the structure, the two-story high window, very prominent corner end cap, as we call it in the industry, reflecting the heritage you have of stucco buildings here. The other part of it, this is a painting which I thought was very attractive, of showing the cemetery gate with the arch, the facade here, and the mansard roof that is also incorporated into the structure here. We also pick up that same detail here on this little pop-out here, or tower here, with the tile roofs. The other part of it that he incorporated that should be stressed here is that he also picked up these beautiful thick arches here in the use of the canopy that I think just ties this whole thing really quite together. And I'm sure that I'd love to have Salim give you his thoughts here, but I think that this is the town. Again, the drawings again. Go back to, we had some comments early on about I-5 and gas stations. This is one of those gas stations on I-5. What we've delivered here is nothing like that station. We've also never approached, this is a modern canopy. We never came even close to this type of very austere, modern look. This was Salim's first crack at it, and there was comments negative about it. This is a close-up of that canopy, reflecting again the Spanish tiles, the pop-out here with a roof line that reflects many of that street houses on the other side of the street that this would face. So from a fascia standpoint, he's done a beautiful job to integrate the canopy with the sidewalk street scene. And that is my presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else on your staff want to say anything? Mr. McCormick? Only if you want to. I just want to make I want to make sure you knew you had the opportunity to speak. Okay.
I'm Salim Kerawal, I'm the architect. I just wanted to say that we worked extensively with city staff and the comments of all the public comments to make the design that would match everybody's desire and come up with a product that's acceptable to all. And we work hard on it. That's
Oh, I can see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for keeping.
Okay. Oh, somebody's coming up.
Along the same lines as Celine, as the project's engineer, worked extensively to try to implement your recommendations, and all the feedback, as John stated, really made for a better project. So we appreciate the feedback and look forward to moving forward with the project.
That's good. I would expect to see this building to get some interesting recognition above and beyond us. And that wouldn't hurt the city either. Okay, we have now heard from the applicant and staff. Public comments. Do we have any comments?
Yes. Todd Dubois?
Hi again, Todd Dubois. I have several parcels on 7th Street in San Juan, and as many of you know, I'm pretty active, or have been. I've been busy in Hollister for the last few years. We'll cover that another time. So I'm here tonight to strongly support this project, and I have a few key reasons for that. The most important is that of my worldly travels and top cities I know of in California, every one has a service station at its entrance. San Luis Obispo, Monterey, Carmel, Piedmont, Paso Robles. I can go on and on. So if we want to join those kind of cities that have solid economic foundations, attract tourists, win awards, we need these kind of projects. And not just in meetings, we need them constructed and built. Obviously, it's going to be very good for city revenues. Probably end up being the largest sales tax collector. And it will also bring, I think, a rising tide that will float many boats, including increased business downtown and actually good for the other service station. If you've ever noticed, if there's a Chevron on a corner, across the street there's a Shell, and then across the street there's an Arco, and before you know it, 3 corners of an intersection have gas stations on them. Now, I know that's not going to happen here, but the point is simple. Smart business people know that they can attract more business by having more of the same kind of commodities available. So I think you'll find that the actual new station will actually bump up the other station, especially since they're different variety of services. And finally, and painfully, this is unfortunate because I'm in the alternative energy space now. You know, traditional energy forms are absolutely critical, especially for the less advantaged in our community. I mean, most of us in this room can drive to Costco and buy their gas, or Safeway in Hollister. And we fill up a 40 or 50 gallon tank and save several dollars. But there's a lot of people that can't do that. And so cost-effective energy is absolutely critical for our own economics locally, and especially the poor or working middle class, I guess, is probably the highest fuel user because there's no jobs here, so they have to commute. And that means they buy fuel somewhere. So it would be great if they're all electric cars, but that won't happen for a while. I'm almost I guess I'm out of town, but lastly, I absolutely trust the staff. All right, let's see. My greatest hope is that I can trust the commission and the staff to take care of all the architectural details and conditions that will make it the right kind of project for San Juan.
Thank you.
sorry to come back to you, but I forgot one element. This will be a green gas station. It will have electric chargers. So that is part of our efforts to expand the fuel element of this business. So that is part of this plan.
I just read the card from Richard Ponce.
Richard Ponce, 93 4th Street, San Juan Bautista. The 156 Caltran bypass of San Juan Bautista in the 50s. The closing of the Ideal Cement plant, which employed 400 people, mostly San Juan people. The big box stores and outlets in Gilroy and Salinas really hurt our downtown community. San Juan and Hollister are now bedroom communities. Money is being spent and left where people work, and that's not here. Most of our downtown merchants are having a very tough time. Sales tax dollars received is very low for a town of our size, and Roger alluded on that a little bit, and maybe he can tell us a little bit more about that situation. Most historical sites and mission towns are supported by thriving surrounding businesses, and this is a business, I think, that will fit that category. We need to direct staff to work with Caltrans, county officials, state representatives to slow down traffic and create safe exit and merging lanes in that area. That section is vital to the growth of San Juan Bautista. There's no question that growth is going in that direction. Property is changing hands pretty quickly in that area. This applicant has demonstrated that he will and he has modified his design to better fit our needs and wants. He has worked with staff to help mitigate concerns at this site. He will work with San Juan to help direct visitors to our historical downtown by dedicating space for that purpose in his project. Our San Juan committee is looking forward to work with him in promoting San Juan Bautista and our downtown merchants. He will be a good partner. The site is zoned commercial. This project is a permitted use. With wise and reasonable conditions of approval, I strongly support this project. Thank you. Why not this project?
Thank you. Other comments?
Mario Torrente.
Hi, good evening. My name is Mario Torrente. I'm one of the owners of the subject land where the proposed development is being proposed. Me and my partners have owned this property, I believe, if I'm not incorrect, since the mid-1980s. We actually had no intent of selling the property. And as you know, it's been there vacant and barren for quite a long time. It is a gateway to your city. Mr. McCormick and his client, Mr. Dowell, approached us with a vision. And their vision was presented tonight to the council and the public. And it is an impressive building. I mean, I think we can all see that. I think it basically will be a landmark for the city. I think it will encourage people to come to the city, and I don't even have to express what benefits it will bring to the city and the residents of San Juan Bautista. So I came here from Monterey to support the project, and I think it's a fantastic project and a beautiful building. Very impressed with it, and I hope that the city moves forward with the project. I think it'll be a total benefit to everybody involved. I'm here to support the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mariana Thomas.
I was really happy to see the revised pictures of the project because it reminds me of a gas station in Rancho Santa Fe, north of San Diego, where I grew up in San Diego, in a community that was, I would say, Spanish colonial all the way around, where all the homes were similar architecturally. And in Rancho Santa Fe, as I recall, there was a gas station where even the pumps had red tiles over them, so it was really made to fit in with the community. On these pictures, which have been, they have obviously been given a lot of attention to, visually, the only thing that I still somehow, I don't know why, have some question about is the large canopy. And I don't know, and this is not a criticism, I'm not used to seeing architectural plans, but how that canopy will be visualized, I think it would be good to consider how it would be visualized from the people coming down the canyon, okay, into town. And that's the only question I have. But otherwise, it's really wonderful, the work that you have done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan Green?
Thank you, Trish. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. It's nice to see you again. As I mentioned last week, or I guess it was the Thursday before, I represent Mr. Frank Leal, who's here tonight, and went into escrow for the adjoining San Juan Inn property the Wednesday before that special meeting. And we're here tonight to make a request of you, and that is because of the timing of Mr. Leal's significant acquisition of this property, that this proposal be continued one more time. And I know that comes as perhaps not great news for the Commission, but this is an important decision for the city. This was a significant acquisition by Mr. Leal, and his presence and his coming into this community is a significant event.
Yeah, we got him.
And in particular, one of the things that if you were to act tonight to approve this project at the Planning Commission level, I think the city manager and Mr. Leal, not this one, that one, would tell you that one of your tasks would be to adopt the proposed mitigated negative declaration, the environmental document under CEQA. And the proposed mitigated negative declaration has mitigation measures in it which lessen the project's impact to the environment to a level that the city, as the lead agency, has deemed to be less than significant. So in other words, only with those mitigation measures will this project have a less than significant impact on the environment. Therefore, the mitigation measures are very important, and to Mr. Leal, the owner, or soon-to-be owner, he's in escrow now, of the adjoining property, these mitigation measures are critical. And we just have not had the time to study and analyze these mitigation measures. And in your staff report, you'll see that the environmental checklist, for example, these are served as the touchstone for the mitigation measures, included things like aesthetics, air quality, hydrology, water quality, noise, transportation, and traffic, all of which had an impact on the environment, but were deemed to be less than significant with these mitigation measures. Anyone who's lived in San Juan for any appreciable amount of time knows that hydrology, for example, is a big issue on that corner, on that intersection. We've seen it flood year after year. I was talking with the assistant planner this afternoon saying, what's the plan for on-site retention and drainage? And we were exploring some of those things, and they may be adequate. I'm not saying that they're inadequate as proposed, but as the neighboring landowner, we need to have a better understanding of that. Is the site going to sheet flow completely in a northerly direction towards 156 in the Alameda? Will there be any drainage that might occur on the Leal property, on the hotel site? What about lighting, for example? In the staff report on the mitigation for lighting, it's that the application or the proposal will comply with the city's dark skies ordinance. But how specifically? It sounds nice to say that it will comply with the city's ordinance, but obviously if you're Leal Vineyard's looking to do what he's looking to accomplish on this site with a very, very high concept, high value property, hotel and luxury spa, lighting, as you can imagine, is one very, very key, important element that we need to know more about. Signage, traffic, the driveway, ingress, egress, all of these things. Because of where we are with the development of the hotel property, we haven't had an opportunity to have our own engineers look at the proposal made by Mr. Dadwal, and we haven't even had time to hire our own engineers to look about the development of the hotel site as it currently sits. So, as I said, we're asking for one more continuance. And this is a significant project that will alter, for better or for worse, that is, this proposed ARCO, for a significant period of time to come in the city of San Juan Bautista. One other reason why a continuance might be in order is that I noted with some interest that the initial study under CEQA was circulated with the definition of the project as containing 6 pumps. And it's my understanding that the project, as defined under CEQA and as proposed, and as you would be asked to adopt, actually has 12 pumps. So I don't know if the circulation is therefore subject to any kind of criticism, whether it needs to be recirculated with 12 pumps. 12 pumps is obviously different than 6. 6 pumps would be 3 islands. This project, the site plan that you have in front of you, has 6 islands, 12 pumps. It's double the size. So what you have is a proposed mitigated negative declaration that's been circulated under California law. That's half the number of pumps that is actually being proposed. So for all of these reasons, we'd ask that it be continued one more time and give us an opportunity to be back in front of you again with most likely some additional proposed language for the mitigation measures and for the conditions on the conditional use permit. Like I said, Mr. Leal is here this evening if you have any questions for him or for me about the future development of the hotel site. Otherwise, thank you for your time.
This I had not expected. I wish we had known about this ahead of time. One of the things that bothers me about developments coming through a commission is that I hate to see, and it really bothers me to drag a quality project on and on and on. It used to be a tactic among commissions, other places. It says, well, change this, move this, do this, and after a year, say, hey, well, we never really wanted you at all. And all they did was drag a developer to his architect every month, make these changes at great expense, whole new set of plans, whole new circulation, when they didn't want them at all. And this is what I don't want a developer in San Juan Bautista to feel, that he's just being played with. I take this very, very seriously. Commissioner, before we continue, any comments on the overall?
I hear you, clearly.
What do you think?
I think that we should go on with it right now. You know?
Well, I understand what you're saying.
Well,
But it is a big decision. It's a big project. I'm
By
inclined,
it, you mean both
the
of them?
gas station with the purchase of a new building. I'm inclined to say yes.
Okay,
one
wait,
continuation.
don't make a decision yet. Okay, I'd like to hear from Mr. McCormick and company. How did you have any idea about this, or?
And if I could just clarify one point, is the description on our initial study is 6 pump fueling stations.
Okay. We just,
Stations have 2 pumps on each
I
side.
clearly understood that in our initial study of this, that because Vanda questioned that whole thing, that what's going to be. A pump is not necessarily a station.
Sir?
Well, I was here when that was announced, and it's my expectation that there seems to be some confusion here in the statement. They don't own the property. They're only an escrow. As you stated before, it's not even an application. And what we're here to discuss is the approval of this particular project and nothing to do with that project. This project stands as the applicant. I think your staff has done an outstanding job of coming up with a negative deck. We did all the studies necessary to get us here. The idea of just throwing out a lot of ideas here, what might or might not occur. For instance, stormwater. The stormwater, based on today's standards, requires us to deal with all our stormwater on our property. The days of dumping it somewhere else are long since gone. But the preceding person wanted to put pressure on our project because of stormwater, for instance, or lighting. We've been through the dark sky approach here for 3 sessions, and we've assured that we would comply with that. There's a lot of things that are being thrown at you here for this applicant to study. I see no reason why the information would be any different from what staff has recommended here. I think the two projects can complement each other. There are plenty of resorts that are in downtown areas with gas stations. They are valuable services for the community. But that project has to stand on its own. This project has been here this is the 3rd meeting, and I think we've done an outstanding job working with the staff to get you a project that mitigations will solve the problems. Not maybe, but we will. So I make the case that we should have a hearing here and proceed. If the other applicant has a project, they should discuss that on their own. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public would like to comment on this matter?
Richard Ponce, 93 3rd Street. I agree wholly with the statements that this gentleman before me just said. It's another project. If it's an escrow, they haven't bought it, they don't like what we're doing, they can let it go. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, staff, my neighbors. My name is Christina Chavez Wyatt. I'm a San Benito County resident. I'm the Executive Director of the San Benito County Business Council. And I would like to echo a lot of the sentiments and desires that were placed by the applicant today, as well as Mr. Ponce, your community member. I had a great deal of pleasure working with Richard on the board of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm here today not to give a position statement for or against this project in particular, only to share with you the Business Council's drive, which is to encourage and facilitate investment within this county, specifically those targeted towards residents and visitors. In this case, catching that money that is being spent in other communities when people are on their way to your historic park in your mission, to Hollister Hills, to our new Pinnacles National Park. Also wearing my hat, I'm a mother and a small business owner, and I do travel through San Juan Bautista on frequent occasion, probably about 3 days a week, going to Salinas and to Gilroy. I would very much like the opportunity to purchase fuel and utilize services within your community. There's been at least 3 times when I'm coming home from a late night meeting, either from the Monterey Peninsula or Salinas, and I'm running on fumes for gas. And I would really like to have the opportunity when Valero is closed to be able to patronize a fuel station on my way into town. I also would appreciate the convenience for our visitors, and as a mother, to have a clean restroom with diaper changing stations, opportunities for our bicyclists to be able to utilize the bike pumps, etc., and to pick up convenience items to both encourage and facilitate investment and our visitors staying here in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. No more? Okay. I'll close the public hearing then. Commissioners, we got a situation here where we have a resolution whereby we can take action, and at the request of a third party, we can defer. Any comments? We've heard.
I'd like to say a few things. I'm all for this gas station because of one reason, it's going to bring in revenue from gas taxes, and that's going to help fix our streets in San Juan in bad shape. Also, the property tax is going to be part of that money that comes off the property tax will go to the cemetery because we're a district and we collect taxes off of that. The only question I'd like to ask Roger, are they going to put the power lines, PG&E putting the power lines underground to that stretch right there?
Not until we request them to do that.
Would they do that?
And we have an application in for an underground district.
And I do like all the work they put into the building to make it look good for that area.
Okay. Mr. Galante?
I prefer to, right now, go over the questions I have related to this project.
Okay. Oh, right.
If we're back on the track here. When we were looking at the PowerPoint a minute ago, what the benefits to the youth of our community are going to be received too. They're beginning jobs right there on site, possibilities for young people to get into the workforce, and I really like that thought. I like the design now that it has been changed, because that is really a gateway not only to San Juan, but to our future that lies on the other side of the highway along with the Arco station. Let's see, what else do I have on here? I believe as we come to all of the mitigations, I'd like to study the design more closely. As the landscape plan comes, will we be able to review that? I'd like to see some of the bicycle facilities back to us so that we can see them and not just have it be a staff recommendation and carrying out, because that way the public would have another chance to look at the main features of the landscaping and the lighting and so forth. If we could work that into the resolution, I would be more happy with it.
It's not a problem because he has to have landscaping, and it won't open until the landscaping plan has been approved and installed or bonded. So that won't. It's not a worry.
Not a worry.
Not to worry.
Not to worry. Because we want to look at it though.
We emphasize that on mitigation 11. The applicant submit a landscape and irrigation plan to the city prior to issuance of the building permit. Landscaping plan shall include all planting areas adjacent to the driveways, parking areas, landscaping, storm drain areas, as shown upon the approved site plan.
I see all that, but I just want to know, is it going to come back so we can look at it in front of the public?
Yes.
I'm concerned about the restrooms. Are they... I was happy to hear this young woman talk about the restrooms. Restroom, big deal in San Juan.
There are practical things here.
They have to have it.
And will all employees, and I don't know if this is legal, be required to park on site rather than using some of the street where residents are already impacting it across the street?
Well, it was interesting because on the revised site plan, we bumped the parking spots up considerably, and we have 7 new parking stalls for employees that are in the rear of the building and on the side.
I noticed that.
And that will help offset for the
customers. And will the parking spaces vary because of big pickups and little cars?
Yeah, as a normal, when we lay out the things, we have a certain amount for compact cars, for a certain amount for regular as well as handicap. And there's a formula that requires that have so many handicap stalls per number of parkings.
And then on to the environmental impact study that we made. I think we've been very thorough.
There's about 40, about 40 items in there
Yes.
to cover all bases.
And they're beautifully organized, referring back to the general plan, and they're easy to follow in that way. I had a lot of problems.
That makes them legally defensible.
Yes, and complete, as far as I can see, we've done a very complete job of reviewing it. Thank you.
Okay.
Can we talk about mitigations?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Again, getting back to consistency, I'm looking at mitigation MM-22. The applicant shall pay all fees required to the city and school districts prior to issuance of a building permit. So I like the fact that the building permit won't be issued until the fees are paid. However, in the body of the, what do we call this?
Initial study.
The initial study.
Negative declaration of environmental impact.
On page 23, mitigation measure MM10, it says applicant to obtain a building permit for all structures on the property conforming to the Uniform Building Code, Fire Code, and Municipal Code of San Juan Bautista. Should the fees be paid up front again? Should this reflect mitigated on page 23?
Yeah, that would be applicant shall pay all.
Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. It is page 23. It's mitigation measure MM22, but it's not worded the same way.
Oh, it would be
Prior to issuance of a building permit.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the same thing happens on page. There is no page number.
What's your mitigation number?
Well, again, it's every time MM-22 is referenced, it should be the same language. And it's this one, several pages ahead, we're missing prior to issuance of building permit. I think that's really important to be consistent and to have that wordage.
Yeah. And again, the resolution that adopts the mitigation measures will control that. If there is an inconsistency in the environmental document, the resolution that the conditions of approval will control that.
Okay.
Yeah. I recognize that the initial study was done several weeks prior to us refining all of the details, making sure that we cross the T's, dot the I's to reflect exactly what we want.
Okay. I would like to add a condition, a mitigated condition. And we've talked about it, but I haven't seen it in writing. The applicant shall appeal to local businesses first to operate the restaurant facility, or something to that effect.
Why would you want to do that?
Well, that was discussed at the last meeting. I thought it was a good idea. They
Could they vote him down? They vote him out? Because the power to vote him out is with the commission and the council.
Who vote him out?
The other restaurants.
Mr. McCormick, do you want to approach again and tell us? Inviting, let's say, Hardeen's to open in the restaurant, or...
I would be happy to have any local business apply to qualify to have a restaurant in our building. Giving it priority, we would be actually willing on a different object to actually give priority to San Juan Bautista residents for jobs here. We expect that the many children and teenagers, and well, they have to be working age to work, but we would be willing to make that concession here to allow for that a priority. Prioritizing who comes to the marketplace is really hard. In fact, I spoke with the gentleman from Jardines here after the last meeting, and he was not ready to take on another restaurant. But that said, yes, if someone wants to come to me, I'm easily available. Happy to entertain a qualified applicant.
No, I'm not suggesting that we mandate that you do that, but just certainly throw it out there and see who
You have
bites.
our word that this is a competitive world, and we won't play favorites here, except for qualifications. People have to be operational, financially strong, qualified in many different ways. But yes, I don't really expect you would put that in a condition of a mitigation.
Okay.
But we certainly, we don't have to have a franchise here. What we want is serve the public in a way that is transparent and works with a gas station.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
Oh, I didn't probably say it very clearly.
Don't understand you. Okay, but now...
Then, item 40, regarding the information kiosk center, I'd like to clarify promoting San Juan Bautista and its services, or something to that effect.
After the word center,
Yeah.
and you want the wording to say?
Promoting San Juan Bautista and its services?
Goods and services.
Goods and services, okay.
SJB and its goods and services. Okay.
And I have...
That's a good one.
Where is it? It's actually about the dark sky.
For the folks who are concerned, you can tell by the tenor of what's going on here, the mitigations are looking to hit all bases where there might be a problem.
Okay, maybe it's in here.
Want the lighting?
Well, it was about the dark sky ordinance, and I wanted to add...
MN 13.
Okay. Okay.
He's probably say dark sky ordinance.
Because it
Okay.
isn't capitalized.
Okay, you have it here on page 6. All light fixtures to be directed away from the residential homes on the west side of the Alameda, but that's not reflected in the negative decks. Okay, and that's, okay.
And that was after the testimony at the meeting and stuff like that. We felt that that was really important to put in the condition.
Okay, that's good.
I would like to see, though, dark sky ordinance instead of regulations.
Yes, I would.
Capitalized dark, capitalized sky, capitalized ordinance. Again, clearly say what the rule, what the ordinance is. Good?
On page 5, item 1, the applicant shall enter into an agreement with the City of San Juan Bautista to construct the proposed project as submitted herewith.
Or you could say as approved by the planning commission.
Okay, but we're only approving the site.
Site plan, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Which one was that?
Number 1 on page 5.
Oh, one. I thought so.
So what are you suggesting, Roger?
As a, the proposed project as approved by the planning commission.
Yeah. Is 7 feet and MM6, is that all we can hope for, 7 feet?
What is it, MM8, you mean?
Is it? 7, yeah. There's 7 feet along the frontage and 7 feet of asphalt. Is that enough to allow a turn lane or some kind of...
Oh, yeah, but the 7 feet that we're referring to, as we went out and measured it, there was a truck that for several years that parked there, and it started to deteriorate, and all the asphalt deteriorated and everything. We did it from the lip, and most of it was 4 to 5 feet. The worst case was 7 feet, so we just took 7 foot,
for the entire frontage and says, hey, let's take this and remove it and replace it with 2.5 inches of asphalt on 8 inches of aggregate base.
That's right, in the street, but the other one, the one I'm referring to is, I think was referred to in the presentation, the 7 feet along the frontage on the property would be used in the future if we could widen that street. Is
It's
that
supposed to be 10
what
feet.
I'm understanding with number 6?
There's a 10-foot dedication. Okay.
10 feet.
10-foot dedication, yeah. And that currently will be utilized from the basic curb to the curb of the parking lot. And that will be used for landscaping and sidewalk delineation. When the road is widened, then the sidewalk, the facing curb will be moved back 10 foot, and then the center strip will be probably then only 5 feet wide.
Yeah, is that in one of the mitigations?
Yes.
The 10 feet?
Yes.
Did I miss it somewhere?
That's condition number 39.
Oh, clear down. That was added after,
Okay.
because of the special meeting and so
Yes.
forth. Oh, and the 10 is, I see why I don't see it, it's written out. It's still the 10. Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
Commissioner? I'm done. How about you?
I'm happy.
Okay.
I think you got them all. Commissioner? Okay. Was there any last comments from the public? No? Okay.
One more question, I'm sorry. Throughout the mitigations, there are many cases where it says the applicant shall submit. The applicant shall submit. Do we want to say submit for approval?
That's
It's
kind
understood.
of redundant.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's redundant? Okay.
Okay, let's have a motion on some action to do this. You have options of continuance, you have options of approval, you have option of denial.
Mr. Chair, again, Commissioner Medeiros, he sent comments for each of the public notices, and I think it'd be good to
Okay, we have a written communication here.
He votes yea. This is already in the works and certainly will come before us while applications and permits take their processing course to actual completion. If this successfully becomes a viable business and gateway success, we can be all proud we had something to do with it, not to mention others that may soon follow riding the wave of success.
Okay. And I would also, since we're logging in, we do have comments here, written comments in our packet from Caravank, a resident. So I just want to make sure that gets noted as public comments, oral and written. Okay. Is there an action to be taken?
I'll make a motion that we have passed the project.
However, before you make that motion, a determination has to be made based on the environmental CEQA document.
Okay, let's take a
on the
look.
record as a whole, and the testimony of the public hearing that
Okay.
Where is the page we're going to read from?
There's the resolution here someplace.
We've got so many papers.
That's okay, we'll find it. Okay. It's resolution 2014-XX.
At the bottom of page 3 of the staff report, and continued on there, based upon the initial study and environmental documents, general plan policies, goals, objectives, proposed conditions of approval and mitigation measures, the staff, or the planning commission, the proposed project will not have a significant effect on the environment. The applicant has agreed to the mitigation measures and that to make the impacts less than negative to the surrounding area. We ask that you make that statement there with the findings based on the whole record, and there's 1 through 8. I could read them for you.
Probably the 1 through 8. Yeah.
On page 4.
Staff report here.
I still haven't found it. So many, did you find it, Pat? Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay, that is also included in the resolution, so let's go through it in the event somebody wants to challenge it. Okay. We have gone through a public hearing. We have prepared a negative declaration of environmental impact subject to about 40 mitigations. So, the first one is proposed project consistent with the policies, goals, and objectives of the general plan for the city of San Juan Bautista. Proposed project is consistent with the zoning district, its rules, regulations, and standards to which it is located. Proposed project is designed to
Fit.
Fit.
Fit. Supposed to be fit.
Fit.
I think so.
Oh,
Fit
yeah.
into the site?
To fit into the site and architectural intentions of the zoning district and is compatible with the uses in which the property is located. 4, the proposed project will minimize any potential adverse effects to the surrounding properties and the environment by agreeing to and implementing mitigation measures. So mitigation measures are not an option. It is the way it's going to be. The proposed project is consistent with the standards and requirements of the San Juan Bautista Municipal Code. The proposed project will contribute to the city's architectural characteristics of the zoning district to which it is located by incorporating design features that meet city standards. The proposed project will mitigate the impacts to a less than significant level by establishing mitigation measures that will be required for approval. The proposed project will not adversely affect the surrounding neighborhood and will not be detrimental to the public welfare of the community. So I think that's basically our findings. To which we have a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista approving the design review application and conditional use permit for Harbhajan S. Dodwell at 404 The Alameda. Okay, summarizing, we conducted the hearing on January 7, 23rd, and February 4th. Planning Commission reviewed the project staff report, considered information of the California of CEQA, received oral comments, public testimony. That's oral and written. Mitigation measures and recommended conditions of approval. The applicant has agreed to the conditions of approval and the mitigation measures that would reduce the impacts of the project to less than significant. The Commission has determined that in light of the whole record before the Commission, the proposed project DR 2014-101 and CUP 2014-101 will not have a significant effect on the environment of the project site and surrounding area. Now therefore be it resolved, the Commission hereby approves design review project number DR 2014-11 and CUP 2014-101, subject to conditions and mitigations outlined on Exhibit A attached hereto and made part of the resolution. Okay, that's what we're going to ask for approval on. So you made a motion? Okay, who seconded it?
I'll second.
We have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you for bearing with us, but I think all the details we spent here will go for a better project for the future of our city.
May I make one comment?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to thank Mr. Leal for being here. I am very impressed with the projects he's done, and I think he'll be a great asset to San Juan. So I hope that the two parties can work together, and if anything comes up, they'll be able to work to everyone's advantage. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda. Consider a recommendation to the City Council to adopt a comprehensive update to the housing element of the City of San Juan Bautista General Plan. That has been going on for how long?
It's been a while.
At least you tell us about it.
At least 3 years.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, so back in October we sent in our final draft to HCD, and after a while. We heard back that we were in compliance. And
Was that a shock?
No. I mean, we had been working back and forth, and it was a slow process, but we were making progress in that. When I had showed up on staff on Appendix 1, which is on the following page, you'll see there was a list that was several pages long of items that needed to be addressed before our housing element could be in compliance. I used that list as a checklist to go through, and once I made all of those checklists checked off in the housing element, the state found it in compliance, and so here we are getting it approved, even though it's at the end of the cycle. And with our general plan update, we'll be having the Cycle 5 housing element. With that update, we need to get it completed. Now that it's completed, or once it's approved, we'll be able to go for grants and things like that in the interim time before Cal Poly updates the current draft to meet the upcoming requirements for Cycle 5.
I've got a comment on page 1-4 of the document. Chapter 1, I guess. The last word. For review at City Hall and public. What's the end of the sentence? It's the very last word, very last sentence.
And public review.
Yeah, I think it would be review.
Public input.
Obviously, the draft housing element will be available for review at City Hall and
Public counter.
Public Library.
Or
Who's going to be at the library?
City Hall and I'm not sure what that word would be, but
Well, I'd hate to have them send it back because they didn't know where to find it. So I'll leave that one to you. But sorry, but I've been editing for so long.
Yeah,
it just pops up.
Thank you for that.
Okay. I think it's pretty straightforward. I guess the council looked at this, the planning commission has looked at this in the past. We've had reports for God knows how long, the fact that we didn't qualify, we're behind, we're in arrears, you name it. And all of a sudden, we get Matt, and I guess Roger gave us enough time to sit down and do it right the last time. And you did it. I want to congratulate you for that personally. So, but that's only as good. I guess we're halfway there now. We need to adopt it. So what we're going to have here is a recommendation to the City Council that do, in fact, adopt this. And it includes also, I believe, a bunch of changes and things that the city has to do to make this legal. So the fact that the state agency said it's good, the city has to buy into it, and that's by adoption. So, does anyone have any questions on this thing? It's a long one. It's very interesting. A lot of good stuff on it.
Yes. Appropriate to then is just to approve it with a recommendation to the city council. Yeah. Our next stop is to the city council, and then they will adopt it by a resolution, and then we'll forward that to the from the housing committee.
Okay, let's put that resolution out.
I don't think it is in there. I don't think there's a recommendation.
Do we have a resolution on that?
No, there's not one.
Just be a
To
motion.
To recommend?
I like resolutions because it's a written document that holds it. What did they say? This is what they said by that vote. Okay. I'll let you make the appropriate resolution. Commissioners.
I'll make a resolution. I'll make a motion that we accept the housing element and recommend that it be forwarded to the City Council for approval.
Okay, a motion to forward the draft has been approved by HCD. HCD? Yeah. So that we can have a bona fide housing element and allow staff to go ahead and start looking for grants. Is there a second on that motion?
I second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I
Unanimous.
can't believe we've done it.
We're not done.
All the years and years of waiting for this to happen.
And you were
And to be
here.
eligible for
Well,
CP.
long before I was on planning, I've been sitting in meetings, listening.
You were here when it
to
happened.
it not being done until now, so thank you.
Okay. Good enough?
50 years.
Matt, do you need anything else from us on that?
Not at this time.
Okay. Draft up a good resolution, because that'll be,
Sure thing.
because you have all the stuff in there. Okay, we have a sign code. Consider amendments to the Section 11, Signs of the San Juan Bautista Municipal Code. The sign code sets standards for all aspects of signs in the city. The Commission will consider a complete review of Section 11. What's happening is Section 11 will be rescinded and will be replaced by the work of the Committee of a Whole, which is the Planning Commission sitting before you, minus one member. Okay, we have a problem with it. No illustrations. Can you help us on that? Did I get the right one? Yeah. No illustrations.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll call for a motion to continue so we can get the illustrations. Staff was preparing some illustrations for this, and we can't adopt it without them, so I'll call for a motion for...
Can we make any comments first?
Sure, if you'd like to.
Did you?
And maybe there are people here who came just to speak on this.
Okay, well, maybe, yeah. Okay. Since we do have a public hearing, you have before us a draft of the new sign code. It needs illustrations. Those will be prepared for the next meeting. But is there anyone who would like to speak on the sign code? Okay.
I would like to say, Mariana Thomas, I would like to say that I think the sandwich signs which proliferate, have proliferated down Third and other places are really tacky. And I know it's not maybe a popular opinion. However, what I've noticed, one person started putting one out, then two other people put theirs out on the corner of Third and wherever the bank is, and it just starts looking very messy and tacky. I did have a business here at one time, and I think, and I hope to do it again when I can afford the rent. I think what would be very good is to be very specific about signs and require that anybody opening a business present, their sign for review. Because we do seem to have a lot of people who are not in the community, who don't live in the community, and they sort of seem to shine that on. And the sign gets promised to be completed sometime in the future. Meanwhile, you have display windows looking really awful with all sorts of neon inside and etc. So I just think there needs to be consistency in this signage, and when someone applies a new business or going to back to old business, retracting a little bit, retracing steps and saying these are the requirements. That's my opinion.
At this time, we have a lot of, we call them A-frames or portable signs, that are illegal. And there's a safety issue with these. Our sidewalks aren't that good at times, and when you start putting these things in there, somebody in a wheelchair can lose control or not be able to get through, or somebody, if they're cheaply made, so they fall over, they're a hazard. So Section 1110-100 prohibited signs. The following signs are prohibited: portable A-frame signs, unless they're entirely on private property and within 15 feet of a public entrance. A-frame signs should not interfere with pedestrian egress or ingress as required by the building or fire codes. So if a person wants to put it on his or her property, that's fine, but cannot be on public right-of-way. And our justification for that was the public health and safety and the liability to the city. So thank you for bringing that up, but I just want to make sure you know that we're thinking about that. Does anyone else would like to comment for, against, or in between?
I just have actually a question. Larry Gerbrandt, resident and a business owner here in town. Although traffic has been so light over the last few weeks, it's been almost scary. Especially in comparison to January last year was a good month for me. This one
And the weather's been great.
hard to understand. In any event, fortunately, I have a consulting business that pays the bills. My question is actually very straightforward, and that is there a copy of the latest proposals for this section that's available? Is it on the website?
Is it online?
Yes, I did have our webmaster upload this, the one that's in our packet now.
Okay.
Okay.
And it-
Okay, I haven't had a chance to review it, so I really don't have any comments. I just
replace the old one.
Do you have a copy of the photos that were supposed to be in there, the illustrations?
I have them in my office there, and we'll get them for you. Yeah.
Okay. My supposition is that they sort of go hand in hand. They're going to show what signs meet specifications, and I guess what don't. Is that?
In our current design guidelines, I think it's Chapter 7 of the design guidelines, shows some illustrations of, what works. And so we thought, rather than have that as a separate document, we wanted to include it as part of the sign ordinance. So.
And it'll be very similar to those design guidelines.
Okay. And there was some discussion at the last meeting. I had that prototype sign that everybody seems to love, the open sign. Where do the new rules stand on that? Because I think it's currently written that actually is an illegal sign, even though it was proposed as a solution.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
Well, the intent is to let them be there.
Yeah, it's not a freestanding sign, though. We don't call it a freestanding sign.
No, it's attached to the building, or it's
No.
right in front of the building.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stake out more than a foot.
I mean, technically, it's a freestanding sign. I bring it in every night.
I don't even think it's addressed, or I don't know where it would be addressed here.
You got me thinking.
Freestanding sign.
Well, freestanding signs are allowed in the industrial district, but not in the commercial.
Is that what we said?
Under prohibited signs, go to page 10.
Page 10.
It says K, freestanding outdoor advertising signs and structures.
That's billboards.
And that's not what we're talking about.
That's why we put billboards in there, so
Yeah.
people would understand what we're talking about.
So I really don't think that sign's addressed anywhere.
So it sort of falls into a gray area it's not prohibited, it's not specifically
Yeah.
approved, and
Not a little.
Well, we
It doesn't seem
could
to
make it a
bother.
general,
If it's not a pedestrian hindrance, then it should be okay.
we could put that under general regulation.
Well, speaking of that,
the more language you put in, the more complicated it gets.
Yeah.
I kind of like things that...
I was going to make a suggestion. I was looking at the Monterey citywide sign guidelines, and in their introduction, they say, if a proposal is inconsistent with these guidelines, it may still be approved. However, the applicant must demonstrate to the Architectural Review Committee that the design better meets the purpose and objectives of the sign ordinance than would a compliant project. I thought, that's great. Well, we actually have the same wording, but ours is in exceptions at the very end. I'm thinking we should move it to the intent. On page 10, under exceptions, we say, in order to prevent undue hardship or inequitable application of this chapter, the Planning Commission may grant an exception from any maximum standard of this chapter for a particular application. The intent of such exception is not to grant a special privilege to any property owner, but to assure fair and equitable treatment of properties that have unusual location, configuration, and graphic communication problems. Any exception request shall be specified in a sign permit application and shall be reviewed as part of that application. I don't know if that directly applies to what we're talking about here, but
Well, I don't want to have to I don't want to have every person who wants one to come down and do this. I think there should be a statement in there that I think if we give an illustration of that particular sign and say these are allowed within 1 foot of the property of the entrance or something like that. And that way we're not talking about 18 to 24 inches sticking out in A-frame.
yeah.
And include the word well secured.
So, but
I'd rather see it. I'd rather see that.
illustration.
Well, I think that would be the quickest way, and then just have a statement that said these are allowed. Mr. Gerbrand, do you have a name for that? I mean, I know if I sign with
It's a freestanding open sign. Is actually probably the best, or pole sign.
Pole sign. But it doesn't have a pole sign in your mind has a T.
I just wanted to clarify something. An applicant comes in, opens a business, he wants to put a sign and it conforms to all the regulations. Can Matt and I prove it and say, hey, because it conforms to it? The only deviation is a comprehensive sign has to have a program.
Yeah, the package.
Somewhere there, that will come to you. And so do you want to see every application, or do you want, if it conforms to the standards, do we issue it?
Well, what
The
about
whole
design?
the whole point of putting standards up there is to let staff do it, and again, it saves the applicant a month.
That was, I think, the intent was that we wanted to refine it and get the illustrations, and if it conforms to your design guidelines, to go ahead and do it.
Now, are there signs that you definitely want to see? Signs on historical buildings or something like that?
And the comprehensive sign program is one that you want to see, because that's where 2 or more tenants is in there, and you want to see what that is, and that's going to be brought to you.
I don't think
Or
we need
any
to see
sign that deviates from the standards, and that goes back to the exception that will come to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is to prevent us after the open sign is accepted to offer a blanket permission?
Well, that's what I'm saying now. Let's put it in here now. Say, hey, that's why I was asking Mr. Gerbrand, what do you call this thing? Say what Mr. Gerbrandt's sign is allowed in commercial districts.
Shall we call it the rare open sign? In honor to
It
rare.
should be the Memorial Chris Margarone sign. Not yet. But it was actually his contribution to the process.
Maybe he's got the receipt for it that says he bought, that.
And I have the receipt.
That you
He
gave.
has my check for.
Well, what about portable freestanding sign? Or
Let's go
too
back. Open sign,
I think I'd have to find it.
as approved.
Where can I?
well, they're from Bardstown, Kentucky. That's where they did it.
And when the new sign ordinance is adopted, this ordinance, 30 days after that, Matt and I will go out, we will serve notices to people with the A-frame.
Ah, good.
Give them a period of time to comply with it, then after that, they will be confiscated and removed.
Oh, good. By comply with what do you mean?
Yeah, you always give a period to comply with, whether
By
it's a week or 5 days or,
Does comply mean take it away or come and get a permit? There's
Well,
no more
if,
permits
no,
going to be
if they're illegal signs to start with,
they're going to be illegal.
A-frames are a legal sign, and so it won't be.
If they have not been permitted already.
well, no, if they haven't been approved, they're illegal. So removal of illegal and abandoned signs on page 11, we have that covered.
And they
that's-
become
that's why
non-conforming, don't
When
they?
we go to them, we say, your A-frame sign is an illegal sign, and it will be removed in so many days unless you show us proof that it's been approved.
If it has been permitted, then it becomes non-conforming, doesn't it?
Yes.
And that whole understanding
We have an
is
amortization.
very clear in here.
We have an amortization program too,
Yes.
I believe.
The amortization program means that it has time to grow old.
Well, it gives them so much
And-
time
Yeah,
to grow old.
and then it's gone.
It's history.
I do have another question. It's again, maybe one of these gray areas, because it's not strictly signage, but there are occasions where I actually show merchandise in front of us. So I have an antique dress form dummy that I put a San Juan Bautista t-shirt, Day of the Dead t-shirt. It's actually been very popular. I've had to order more.
Yeah, they're great.
I put it right in front. I sandbag it down so it can't fall over, and we have people walking around with San Juan Bautista t-shirts. My question is not only about that. It's not strictly a sign. It's actually demonstrating merchandise. I noticed that there are a few other stores that do the same. Is there anything in the regulations that speaks to that one way or the other?
They're not signs, but they do block the public right of way, so I'll leave that one to staff. Yeah, it's not a sign. Like you said, it's furniture.
It's not a sign, but you know, I just noticed walking around town today, various stores have small displays of merchandise, which I think, I mean, they don't block access because they're usually right flush against the
I think Matt and I were trying to reference that is in the sidewalk, there was a certain zone that we were going to allow planters and, little chairs and stuff like that in that zone.
Oh, okay.
The key thing we're looking at is
Adjacent to the building?
public health and safety, that a wheelchair can get through. Because, see, if we say you can do it and you block a wheelchair, then it come back to Roger and the council and say, hey, guess who owns the city now? And that is a concern. I had one where the seats were outside and the dog came by with his owner and the man petted the dog. Don't touch him, it's an attack dog. This kind of stuff. But had something happened on those chairs, the city would have been liable.
Although anybody walking a dog in town, I mean, it has nothing to do with the chair on the side.
No, it was also blocking. It was blocking the. Yeah. Again, this is a key thing. It's just a peep that the public can get through. The challenged public can get through, and
Nothing I do in front of my business blocks anybody.
no, it's got to get more customers in there.
Okay.
Well, but again, I want to get back to your pole sign. Think we can come up with an answer by next?
By next meeting, yeah.
Well, within a couple of weeks, we got to get that something to Roger, so when they do the whole package.
It's technically a small flag on a pole.
Flag sign?
Flag sign?
Flag sign.
Frankly, for that matter, that may actually be an interesting solution, because where I have a holder for an American flag, that could just as easily be an open sign.
That's what I think. I've always thought it should be hanging rather than on the street, ready to blow in the wind that we might have in San Juan sometime.
Well, the interesting, if I may, believe it or not, that heavy iron pole sign, just the little, and the flag on it is free swinging. I've actually had the wind blow strong enough to blow it over.
Really?
And it's got I either have to put an additional heavy iron plate at the bottom, or
sandbags.
I actually have sandbags that are designed to hold photographic stands under similar conditions. So
wow.
I toss one of those. On a windy day, I toss one of those on top of it. It's not going to go anywhere. But wind is definitely a consideration in this town, especially during the summer.
That's a public health and safety issue. That does concern me. But we do like the idea of that.
There's flags on that.
Flag.
Oh, here we go again.
Flag sign?
Then we have
Where
to
are
define
those flag signs in here?
A picture.
Yeah.
we take a picture of that sign in front of his store. This is a flag sign, as we define it. And in the definition, it says, see illustration 6.4. No, but again, everybody at that meeting liked the idea of that kind of sign. And then when you came through and said, it had an effect on your business, that was a plus. So I don't want to see, 10 people sign up and have my agenda with, can I have a flag sign? Can I have a flag sign? I want to have something in here that says, if it looks like this one in front of Mr. Gerbrandt's place, it's okay. And we'll define it as see illustration 6.4, and
we should provide dimensions.
Dimensions, the whole thing.
I'll be happy to provide both dimensions and a suitable.
Very good.
Oh, okay.
Since he's a photographer.
That'd be a beautiful picture. Do you get a commission on every one that's sold with your picture? Will you get a commission on every one that is sold since you took the picture and advertised?
I'll make a donation to the city if the appropriate.
Okay.
More than happy to do that.
So let's...
I'll make a motion that we continue this to the next meeting, with that it will include the signs, the illustrations.
Okay. Second. Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good. Okay. That does our public hearings. What else is on our agenda? It's not
Lot line
time.
adjustment.
Lot line adjustment. Consideration of approval of lot line adjustment for APN 002-41-032 at 305th Street. The applicant is Philip Chan. Okay. Who wants to speak on this one? Staff report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, as you recall, this is the applicant that came in front of you at your last meeting and asked for a last meeting, the meeting before last, for a certificate of compliance to substantially certify that Lot 8 and 9 in the Ramona Heights subdivision are legal lots. And after the certificate of compliance has been approved, now the applicant is coming back to ask for a lot line adjustment. The Lot 9 has an existing non-conforming duplex on it, and the lot line between lots 8 and 9 is within a foot of the building and doesn't conform to the side yard setback. So it will require a lot line adjustment. And so the application tonight here is just to adjust the side yard setback of Lot 9 where it makes it conforming to the side yard setback. It will reduce the width of Lot 8, which is currently 40 feet, and it will go down to 33 feet.
And the purpose of that little jog?
Lot 8, the 33-foot lot, has an existing garage on it.
I have a problem with this line adjustment. These two lots are hooked to the same sewer line going out to the street. When they built these houses there, they come down, the sewer come down off 3rd Street, come to that property, and these two houses are hooked on the same sewer line together. There's only one sewer line going out to the street.
Yeah, and that is handled in the conditions of approval here for the applicant to provide new utilities to parcel 2, lot 9, including but not limited to domestic water, sanitary sewer lateral, fire sprinkler service, underground electrical, and natural gas service. So the new lot that has the garage on it will have to conform to those
conditions.
New conditions.
Does that mean a new meter? New water meter?
You're going to have a new
water service.
Sewer hookup.
Water service, not...
Yeah.
And a new sewer hookup, right?
New sewer hookup.
Yeah. Because I know when they built that, they were supposed to not do it that way, but they did do it.
Yeah. Because the resulting lot that will have a garage removed and then a new home will be built on it will have to have its own sewer, water, fire service.
Because the house in behind that one, the little house on on First, Second, Third Street. That comes down to this property, and then it goes through one of these houses, and it goes over and connects to the other one.
And you'll see on the tentative map, the arrangement where the lot line will basically go down between the two proposed buildings. And the lot with the garage will end up 33 feet wide, and the setbacks on one side, which would be the south side, would be 5 foot, the north side would be 7 foot, and then the house will have a single-car garage, will have its utilities, and depending on the applicant's desire, he can make it as big as he wants to meet the setbacks, lot coverage, and height restrictions.
And the purpose of the little jog?
Is to conform to the parking requirements for the non-conforming duplex that is on the south property. That duplex is required to have 2 covered and 1 guest parking. And so that jog there was for the guest parking, and then the carport would be the 2 covered parking requirements.
Can you maneuver a car out of that?
Yes, there will be cross easements on the...
No, I mean, the uncovered space there, is there enough room
To negotiate a corner?
to negotiate a backup?
Yeah, there'll be cross easements out in front of the carport that will cover basically the width of in front of the things, and the driveway that goes all the way back.
Okay.
So the car can back out of there.
Okay. Okay, Commissioners, what do we got? We've got a resolution here. We got a lot line adjustment for Philip Chan at 305th Street. Is Mr. Chan in the audience? Would you like to say anything? That you are the applicant?
Yes, I
We always give the property owner a chance to.
I wasn't planning on saying anything. Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
It's great to see you all. Yeah, basically, it's just a progression of continuing to improve the property, the duplex, and ultimately getting another new residence on the property.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioners. Have a resolution there.
Do we have to read it?
5 conditions.
Before you can act on the resolution, and there is again the CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act, has to be complied with. A lot line adjustment qualifies for a category of exemption under Article 19, Section 15305, Class 5, minor lot divisions. And the Commission should make the findings to support that categorical exemption. And we've outlined 4 findings. And if you like, I can go over those.
Okay.
Okay. That the lot line adjustment is consistent with the general plan of the City of San Juan Bautista, policies L3, encouraging the development of vacant and underutilized properties within the City of San Juan Bautista by approving urban development outside the existing city boundaries. Before approving policy H1, ensuring that adequate supply of land is available to accommodate projected housing needs through the horizon of the plan. Policy H6, encouraging housing development on vacant infill sites within the city limits. And policy H17 is strongly encourage private property owners reinvestment in the city's housing stock. Where feasible, such reinvestment should maintain the affordability of housing by avoiding very large increases in floor area. And 2, the findings is that the property lot line adjustment application will conform to the zoning district setbacks and standards to both which properties exist. That the lot line adjustment will adjust the parcel size, and that they are consistent with the existing parcel size in the immediate surrounding area, that the lot line adjustment will not adversely affect the health, safety, persons living and working in the vicinity, or be materially detrimental to the general public welfare of the city and its residents.
Okay.
Again,
And we're categorically exempt.
the state law requires that you cannot condition lot line adjustments other than legal access, legal utilities, and legal conforming setbacks of standard and height. Those are the parameters that you use for lot line adjustments.
Okay.
You cannot put on to say that they would have to put in curb, gutter, sidewalk, or do off-site improvements or something like that. But the conditions that we've outlined in the areas is that they have to record the document, the applicant designate the 12-foot strip of land between the two buildings as non-buildable and open space, because that has to be the driveway for the parking structures in the back. Now, the little innuendo is that Mr. Chan owns both properties. The requirements is that you can't deed yourself an easement, but he can reserve that area and it can be open. When any time one parcel is sold to another person, then cross easements can be developed because it's a new owner, but he can't do it himself. So we conditioned it to say that area has to be non-buildable and an open space so that it can be used as a cross easement when the landowner changes.
Sounds good.
The third, the applicant will provide new utilities to it. That's one of the conditions that the lot line adjustment requirements there is you have legal access, conforming to building standards and zoning, and utilities. And the applicant meet the parking requirements of that zoning district within the parcel one. And they have to meet the parking requirements for that zoning district.
Okay, commissioners, based on the records, what action do you want to take?
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2014-4?
Something.
06. We
06.
We've done a lot tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have, and included in that is the CEQA
Right, we made that as a
information.
finding in the
That's
process.
a finding, and therefore we don't have to say it again.
Okay, second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay. So the next item on the agenda here. Discussion items, brewery building project, 104 The Alameda.
Landmines.
Oh, the brewery project.
Oh, brewery? Okay.
Nothing up, brewery? Oh.
Just a brewery project. The applicant is proceeding. They've requested to start doing the utility lines, and we've given them an encroachment permit to start putting the utility lines in. They have not submitted the final building plans, and that I met with one of the designers today to go over the thing. That'll be shortly before that. The engineers have been out there to stake it and getting ready to go. Again, the lot line adjustment was approved between the Almaden Development Corporation and the Hippolyto Serra. The applications have been signed, and everything has been ready, but we can't record it because one of the owners signed the documents but didn't record his name. So he's coming down tomorrow. Trish is a notary public. He's going to notarize his signature. Then the lot line adjustments can be recorded. Then we can issue the building permit. But there's still several things that they have to do before they have to sign some documents that they're complied with, and so it's proceeding and a little bit slower than we thought, but it's coming along.
Okay.
And I will keep you abreast. They have not submitted their final landscaping plan and irrigation. And when I get that, I'll bring that forward to you so you can see that. And the applicant or the owner did indicate that he might consider building the second two-story building at the same time. And I haven't seen the plans yet, but if he does, then I will bring that back to you for site review and architecture.
Sounds good. General plan. No, wait a minute.
Yes.
That's right.
General plan update, okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, just to give you an update, we had the background reports available online, and we were looking for feedback from the community and people on the General Plan Advisory Committee. We heard back input closing on the 27th of January, sent all that feedback down to Cal Poly so they can incorporate that in their editing and the comments that they've heard. We had a plan van, which was basically asking same information from the second meeting, which was held on January 24th. And that was in front of the post office, which we had heard may be a good location for getting more of the people that are living in and around the community. And so we were set up there on Friday, the 24th, asking for input as well. That group of students stayed overnight and were able to set up their plan van at the Mission 10 run, which was on the 25th, to get some input there as well. Flyers were sent out in a mailer with the water bill to everyone that has a water bill in and around the city. Basically, we were advertising the next community meeting, which is coming up on the 12th of this month, and that if they couldn't attend the meeting, that they could send back with their bill, fill out the survey that was included in that. The flyer was both in English and Spanish. From that paper that went out and all those bills, we got back 17 surveys, and we hope that a lot of people got the notice and they'll be showing up at the next community meeting. The feedback that we did hear from those surveys was really good, and we sent it on to Cal Poly to be incorporated into the background report as well. We will be having a plan van actually before this upcoming meeting next week on February 12th. That will be held at the community center at 6 p.m. That plan van will be basically getting some of the outreach, those folks that wouldn't be able to attend to the meeting. That would be, I believe it's planned for in front of the post office again, or in the Windmill Market area before the meeting, so look out for that. And as well, the next planned meeting after the 12th would be March, so basically a month later, March 12th, and that would be the 4th community meeting. And I think we just figured out that date today, finalized it. And that's all I have for an update. If you have any questions.
Questions?
Yes, I have a question. When is the committee that is going to be formed, when will it be formed?
Which committee?
Aren't there the people from the community supposed to serve on a general plan committee?
Yeah, the general plan committee meets every community meeting. They're kind of the core group of people that show up at each meeting.
When do we get announcements about that? I'm not getting announcements about that.
I guess I'm confused on what you're asking.
Who is on the general plan committee?
We have, I believe there's 12 or 13. I'd try to list them.
We had a list. Weren't we going to be selectors of that?
No, the council.
We weren't? The
no,
council
was
selected.
That.
And when do they meet?
They meet whenever we have a community meeting.
The 12th will be the next one.
There at the hall?
Yeah, so I believe the last community meeting you were at, right, the second one?
And they meet separately from that time?
They were all there
They're
present.
just there. They're part of that
They're the core
whole
group of stakeholders that we need at each community meeting when we get outreach. And as well, for an example, with the background reports that were sent out, I have email distribution lists that they all get an email saying that have a look at the background reports, and then basically they give me feedback. So the committee overlooks the documents even though they're not having a meeting off on their own, but that they're the core group present at each community meeting that's led by Cal Poly, and then the rest of the public and others interested can show as well.
Will that group ever meet individually away from Cal Poly people? Or
No, they will
so
not.
that they can have communication with each other to come to
That's like
something
this-
specific to our plan?
Cal Poly's like their staff. And so these folks meet, and they basically what it amounts to is like a committee with an open meeting, and you all come. But we want those first 13 people in there because that
Are
guarantees
there any
this.
minutes to say that they come, or are there any record of their attendance, or how does that work? It's so unusual, isn't it? This process that we're going through now?
This is different from.
Different from before, when people met in a room and discussed it among themselves. Didn't we have that before at the old general plan meetings that are listed in all the front of the general plans?
I think there's several different ways and options of gathering input. The way that we're doing it is Cal Poly led. They've kind of proposed this to us, and this is how they've done it. And they've done in the past 8 years general plans for several communities around California, and this is kind of the direction that they've given us, given that they're the experts. I know Gilroy is going to be doing their general plan coming up really soon. I can ask and see what type of option that they have. I know theirs is going to be taking several years to do, whereas ours is kind of more short-term and given...
Is any of the subcommittees of the general plan, they could meet individually if they wanted to?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always an option, but I mean, this is kind of the direction that we're getting from Cal Poly, our consultant.
I had anticipated that our own people, without the supervision of Cal Poly, would meet sometime and have a discussion among themselves.
Well, they're not exactly supervising them. You've got the San Juan Bautista people there, and they're able to do the discussion. I mean, they're all sitting there as a body.
I know,
they
and the
can do
rest
that.
of us are all there too, and we can't hear a word, right? Because of the acoustics.
Oh, that I don't know.
Anyway, that's an aside that.
Okay. Mr. Gerbrandt?
Yeah, I just want to note that I'm actually one of the committee members.
Are you?
And just want to comment that so far the process I think has actually worked quite well. The committee members tend to be the ones who, if there's input to be sought from the tables, they've been sort of the tables have been organized around the various committee members, and they've taken leadership positions at the meeting itself. I've had several people comment to me about the gathering of public opinion. I think the process has been going fairly well. It's first time for me, so I have no benchmarks. But it seems like, considering the size of our community, a lot of input has been gathered, and a lot of people have spoken as to their vision of where they want to see the city go. So,
I too have been attending those meetings, but I'm completely unaware of which ones of you are really on the plan. Maybe they should be introduced, because their names are going to show up on the next general plan forever, and I think our community ought to know how they have been participating in this group.
Sure.
Suggestion.
That's a wonderful suggestion. We can definitely do
I don't
that.
know if it's wonderful or not, but I
Well,
do want the community to know that we're organized in some fashion so that when we start to read the general plan, we have some reference that they have been participating.
Well, one of the big things with the documents of this type, the big challenge is that, you did it in the back room. These folks, clearly, the record shows, they're having these public meetings. They have a body. Everybody's invited to this public meeting. They have their plan van. They've sent out notices, bilingual, and they're begging people to come in, like we are, to come in and talk about the future of the city. And again, I haven't worked with this kind of a program, but it sounds like it's working. I mean, they're getting information because the kids are willing to sit out there in front of the church, in front of the post office, in front of Windmill, and ask embarrassing questions. and they're getting results. And maybe younger people can reach older people.
I have no argument with that, whatever. I've been participating and enjoying it completely, thinking that we have done a wonderful job of having these students do what they're doing. I just think
I got it.
that the whole community needs to know who the people are that will be signing this document, and have they been at those meetings.
Do you take attendance?
Yep.
You do minutes of your meetings or
I
summaries?
have attendance of who's there and who's not.
Do summaries of your meetings. It's good for the record. Get the little stick-on labels. Hi, my name is Ralph.
Committee member.
And that would help people. That would help the non-members know who the leaders are. I mean, that'd be my suggestion.
And how then when we see them on the street, if we have some general plans idea to say to them, we know we're talking to people who can take it back to the right.
Name tag, I think, is pretty good. It would be a real plus.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments on that? Okay. Next one, plan lines.
Okay. It's appropriate because when we're going through the general plan, Matt and I felt is that plan lines are a technique that we use in advanced planning to where we get the planning commission to start looking at future needs of where you need your circulation, your easements, your right-of-ways, so that you can handle, where we're going to expand. And plan lines are that technique where we can identify that. On the map I included, I kind of pinpointed several areas that we want to reflect some specific plan lines so that we can incorporate those into our general plan. And it's looking at future circulation as well as pedestrian, linear parks, drainage easements, and water easements. And so I just highlighted the 10 areas that I felt are important to reflect in the general plan, and we'll be working on those and then getting back to the planning commission on various stages. I think it's important to recognize that the follow-up is that we really want to encourage more pedestrian-oriented movement of people, and several of the projects that we've identified here is promoting that aspect of it.
Good. Okay. Any questions on that? The public has any questions, just raise your hand. Glad to call you. Inclusionary housing.
Again, the inclusionary housing brought this back in 2012, 2013, and it's the purpose and intent, is obviously is to encourage the construction of affordable housing, and we do that in various ways and everything. What we're finding is that coming off of the 2006, 7, and 8, where prices were extremely high, affordability index was atrocious, and not too many people could build affordable housing. Now the prices have come down considerably. What we're finding is that in the application of our inclusionary housing, we find that the program or the business plan to do development is that 1 in 5, or 20% stock, every 1 in 5 houses have to be built to the affordable index, which is affordable housing, and according to HUD relationship, it's down in the $200,000, $180,000, and $200,000 category, when the market rates are up at the $280,000 to $300,000, and so that creates a big separation, and it's a big deterrent for developers to say, hey, the business plan and economic feasibility of this just doesn't pencil out. And what we're finding is that we're not getting too much development. You recall the Ambrosio. It's one of the considerations that they've been trying to get builders to go into, and they're looking at it, and it seems to be a deterrent. And I'm one of the guys that believes that supply and demand is that if we're getting 0 at 20%, but if I can get somebody to come in at 1 and 8 or 12.5%, and if we get 4 or 5 units there, that's better than none. And so I'm trying to balance that off, and what I would like you to take a look at and see some of our rationale here is maybe we should be looking at maybe lowering the 1 and 5 to maybe 1 and 8. Santa Cruz has 1 and 8, and it's working well for them. And I think that it would be in the ballpark where we give the incentive to where, hey, then we could maybe get some large projects where we're going to get some affordable units. Now, in the Creek Ridge subdivision that Vance is part of, they built some secondary units in the back. Matt and I also feel is that the current secondary unit application is 600 square foot per unit. And we felt that maybe we can come back to you and maybe raise that up to about 800. That will give a little bit better unit and still qualify for a secondary unit. San Diego County allows up to 1,200 square feet in theirs.
Wow. Okay.
Which would mean a family.
Yeah.
And it has its own meter, so that would be helpful.
Yeah, but a lot of those secondary units, so you're trying to pick up single, seniors, disabled people, and when I lived down at Big Sur, their guest houses were $850, and it is tight.
Yeah, and 850 is a good barometer for utilizing the secondary unit. When it first came out and we were planning, it was always the Granny Flat ordinance. That's what they called it.
Yep, in those days.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
I used to ask people I asked a lady one time, she bought a trailer. I don't live in a trailer, I live in a mobile home. Oh, okay. Political correctness.
and my findings on there, I've outlined A through I, of the findings that would support, higher densities in select zoning districts to keep building costs down, to draw more affordable units, smaller and more efficient floor areas designed to meet reduced affordable housing, reduce open space requirements in planned unit development, reevaluate the expanded categories of exemptions for affordable units to meet CEQA compliance, streamline the permit process for administrative approval to reduce approval time for affordable units, lower impact fees for affordable housing units, grant density bonuses to developments where affordable housing units are integrated into the market rate housing, provide greater flexibility to establish in lieu fees for affordable housing, increase the minimum floor area from 600 to 800 square foot for the secondary housing units when combined with market rate units. So those are ideas that we brought forth that could encourage affordable units, and then lowering it from 1 and 8 is a big milestone to where then we can start seeing some productivity.
Okay. Any questions on that?
Sounds good.
Thank you. Okay, CDBG notice of funding availability.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I went to a CDBG grant workshop last week held at the City of Hollister. So given that we're sending our housing element on to get adopted by City Council, this is something that staff is looking at to basically go for funding for different projects in the city. So first, there's many requirements with this type of grant. The application will need to be in by April 11th, so the time frame that we have to get an application together, have public meetings or public outreach on figuring out if there's people that are interested in participating in the grant and getting the application together. And so it's a pretty short time frame. Some of the items that need to be addressed before we go for funding, approved Cycle 4 housing element, which is being sent to the City Council. We'll have to make sure growth management ordinance does not interfere with eligibility, so that's something we'll have to research. citizen participation. We'll have to have public hearings and public information out there. Approved resolution from the city's governing bodies, a 50% rule, which doesn't apply to us because this new rule that's put forward by HCD is that if you have 50% of monies already from this grant, then you can apply. And so we don't have any money from that, so we're good for that. We have to meet the low income, the low moderate level of 51%. So the positives for San Juan Bautista is that, again, we haven't applied for a grant in a significant amount of time. The 50% rule doesn't apply to us, but it does apply to a lot of the other cities in our pool, and so that increases our chances of funding. 2000 census, it puts all of San Juan Bautista at 53.7% low to moderate income, so we fit that threshold. And then one of the hotter topics and projects that they want to give more funding towards are potable water projects. They're highly prioritized. So the city's going to begin public participation process, and we'll be formulating ideas on what projects we're going to be going for and what would be the most successful to achieve funding. That's all I have. If you have any questions.
Okay, any questions on that report?
Who are they asking what projects would be most applicable to us?
So that's something that we need to figure out with staff, but then also get input from the public if there's people that want to go for funding and investment into their house that they live in. They have to meet all those requirements, but putting out that notice that we're going to be going for funding, and if there are folks in the city that are interested in that, then they have to let us know.
Now, are they heard at the commission level or the council level?
Both.
Both.
If you find projects that we consider eligible, submit those to the recommendation. I'll be asking the council to do the same thing, and the staff, and then we're going to identify something that we feel will score high, and then we're going to go for it.
Good. And usually they're looking for shovel-ready projects that just need the funding. And so there's kind of a few that we've identified, but of course we want to make the biggest impact on the greatest number of San Juan residents. That's kind of the key goal.
Okay.
Is there a website where people can look for some of this information?
Yeah, there's a website.
Could we put it out somewhere?
Yeah. Well, that's part of our public participation. We'll be sending that out, letting people know where the information is. And HCD's done a really good job of breaking down, all the different requirements that are necessary. There's kind of a lot of information on there, which can be overwhelming. And I went to an 8-hour workshop, and it was just a small piece of the pie. So definitely we'll be getting the information out there that funding will be available once we make sure we meet all those requirements.
Okay. Next one is the Certified Local Government Status, CLG.
Again, just wanted to give an update on our CLG status. Currently, we are overdue 2 annual reports, and staff has been in contact with one of the folks at the Office of Historic Preservation. I wanted to include the template annual report just to show kind of the items that are they're needed to fill out the annual report. So that's basically the attachment that's in there. It gives you a sense of what information that they're looking for. Basically, we just wanted to let you know what our status was because, given the amount of projects that have been happening and the priorities, this is one that I think keeps going to the bottom. And it's something that's on our radar, but that we just wanted to update you and I guess kind of look for direction and
Okay. Amanda, and there's your CLC, certified CLG.
Well,
I don't know.
we
Couple
did the
things.
training. You did
You
that
did the training?
training too, didn't you?
Uh-huh.
And Dave has gone through.
He did the training.
About half of it.
Oh, okay.
I thought he did it all. Why?
Really half, I thought I got it.
He was online and he said he was going through something online.
Did you do it? The
I thought he did it all.
Secretary of the Interior Standards was online, an online workshop. I thought you
I
did.
missed that. Was going to.
But I'll send you the link.
Okay.
Well, if anybody wants to help Matt complete this.
Yeah,
that's it,
and I think there's some thresholds that need to be met. I think with the Historical Resource Board, that there's a certain amount of members that need to have that status to have that board be
At least two.
functioning. Yep.
At least two.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pull this out of here. No.
And work
So-
on it.
Work on it.
Okay.
That's great, and that's
All right,
that's
we can
just
do
the template for 2011 and 12,
Pretty long.
and then we also would need to fill out the last year's, which would be 12 to 13, and so that would be
Okay.
great to work with you, Georgiana.
Thank you. Future agenda items.
Sign ordinance.
Sign ordinance.
I thought we never.
Okay,
How's
sign
that?
ordinance, Hillside.
That will be Hillside.
Hillside, what else
Oh,
we
I like
got?
it. What about sphere of influence?
CLG, you want to work on the CLG again next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, put that down. Okay,
Preservation nominations.
Oh, yeah.
okay. Nations, okay, anything else? Good for a start, we've been busy here. Okay, any comments from the commissioners?
I would just like to announce that the Historical Society is having a general meeting on Saturday at Doña Esther's at 11:30, and our guest speaker will be Henrietta Luna Patino, who works for the state park, and she'll be an interesting speaker. So everyone's welcome.
Okay. None? Comment? Staff?
Just kind of information. The approachment permit has been issued to Stephen Ayer of Harvey's Locker for the fire extension on 2nd Street to be brought into the building.
Good.
Yeah, so he's moving forward.
Okay.
I had one thing I wanted to ask you. I keep doing that, I know. Now that Mr. B's People's Plaza has closed, I hope we can get all those retirement signs and for sale, and, I mean, you know, the sale items he always had, the signs he had out.
Doesn't he have 60 days or something?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
He takes it.
there's still a lot of signs and animal out.
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like that. Yeah, but you're right. It's a little bit gaudy. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the perennial sale.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I do have a concern. Probably should not address this in a public meeting, but I do see smoke in the morning and near where I live, and I'm wondering if there's any burning allowed at any hour in San Juan Bautista.
Yeah. And it's early in the morning.
Yes.
We've heard that with the fire department, yeah. Send a truck out there and arrest them.
Yeah. We haven't issued any burning permits.
There are no burning permits allowed in San Juan at this time.
Okay. Anybody want to adjourn? I'll call the motion.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second. Favor?
Aye.
Aye.